across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Big thanks to Harry Cole for another great show. Let's get it on. Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan and I'll be with you all the way to 10 o'clock. Here come 3 thrilling hours of news, views and topical debate. It's your show. Get stuck in, get involved, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000. It's good to talk on Talk. Or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Thursday, March the 27th. Here's what's coming up. The fallout after the dreadful spring statement confirming that Rachel from accounts hasn't got a clue. Growth, as proved by her economy-killing £40 billion tax grab budget from hell. Robert Reeves couldn't make anything grow. She's out of her depth, busy upsetting just about everyone. With yet more crippling tax rises virtually guaranteed in the autumn, even slavish Labour lapdog papers The Guardian and the Daily Mirror had a go at her. Should Starmer sack this incompetent woman before it's too late? 0344499 1000. In other news, after another 357 migrants crossed the channel yesterday, it emerges that new sentencing guidance to judges recommends light sentences of less than 12 months for asylum seekers who break the law, so that they don't have to be deported. How mad is this latest shocking slice of two-tier justice? 0344499 1000. Plus, so much for the special relationship as Donald Trump slaps 25% tariffs on imported cars in a move that will devastate the British car industry. 0344499 1000. Does Trump really love Britain? Or does he, like the rest of his cabinet, like J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio, does he think that Starmer and the rest of the European leaders are a bunch of pathetic freeloaders? You decide. 0344499 1000. He does, by the way. Also, the woke lunacy of a new NHS trans policy that will, and I quote, we talked about this last night, it broke last night, I couldn't keep a straight keep a straight face. I burst out laughing. A new NHS trans policy that will, and I quote, raise awareness of menstruation in men's toilets. Is this the moment this nation went completely insane? Do you want your awareness of menstruation in men's toilets to be raised? I'm damned if I do. 0344499 1000. And finally, as his favourite African charity spectacularly unravels amid allegations of racism, bullying and misogyny, and Prince Harry sensationally resigns, does this royal do-gooder have the opposite of the Midas touch? Everything he touches goes to crap? Is the Duke of Sussex just a bit useless? We'll try to answer that important question later. 0344499 1000. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Thursday night together. Now, going to go over to our brilliant international editor, Isabel Oakeshott, in just a second. But before we join Isabel, let me remind you that in an hour's time, or just about an hour's time, 8 until 9 o'clock, it's Call Dr. Renee, GP extraordinaire, Renee Hundekamp, in the studio answering all your medical questions. If you've got health issues, you can't get to see your GP, you've got NHS problems, you're unhappy with your treatment, or you just don't feel too well, call Dr. Renee 0344499 1000. She's here to help. Doesn't have to necessarily be you, could be a loved one or a friend. Call her, she's very good at this. So that in about an hour, and then at 9 o'clock we'll try to answer, as I said, that important question: is Harry Prince Harry, just a bit useless. You let me know what you think. 03444991000. Let's get a debate going on that one. I think it's important. Now, before we get to any of that, though, for the first 45 minutes or so, let's talk to Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Welcome, Isabel.
Hi. Now, I know that we're going to be talking about some pretty heavy stuff this evening, but this matters, doesn't it? Because really, it's all about how well off or otherwise people feel. And, you know, Rachel Reeves tried her very best, didn't she, to put a positive gloss on it yesterday. But I don't think anyone today, 24 hours on, is feeling anything other than pretty miserable about her announcements.
Do you think, Dan Hodges wrote a piece in the Mail immediately after the spring statement yesterday, and he said, it was quite a good turn of phrase, he said she doesn't quite realise it, but this spring statement was Rachel Reeves' resignation letter. More and more speculation that she does seem to be out of her depth. The economy is going in exactly the opposite direction that she promises it will go in other words, downwards, not upwards. This ONS prediction forecast halving its prediction of growth from 2% to less than 1% is pretty devastating for her. Now, you know, the world of politics, it's difficult. It's very difficult for a Prime Minister to sack their number one acolyte, the Chancellor of the Exchequer. But, I mean, she is palpably doing a very, very poor job. That budget last October was just a disaster. I mean, the temerity of this government to talk about growth after a £40 billion tax grab, including the business killing raising of the national insurance contributions, to talk about growth after that is frankly gaslighting us. Or if they genuinely believe there can be growth after a budget like that, then they're economically illiterate. So my question to you is, do you feel that maybe her days are numbered?
Well, I've been a political reporter for something like 20 years now, and you're absolutely right that it's pretty rare for prime ministers to sack their chancellors. That is quite the nuclear button. Actually, I think Rishi did it, didn't he? Or at least Nadhim Zahawi had to resign. So, you know, it does happen a bit. But it's a drastic thing, and especially so newly into the life of an administration. So I don't think that Keir Starmer will quite yet jettison Rachel Reeves, but I'm pretty sure he's already decided to do so. It's a matter of when he's going to fire her. I would say that she's probably got another 2 quarters of, you know, the economic cycle to show that she can actually improve the numbers. And I don't think that 2 quarters will be enough. You know, she might just be still achieving a little bit above zero in economic growth rates. And if so, then that probably is the end for her. Unless she can get into some much more impressive figures, Keir Starmer's going to have to kick her out. I mean, he just is going to have to. I can't see it going beyond this autumn, really.
I've heard through the grapevine, the Westminster gossip mill, that, you know, the thing about Starmer is everybody knows, and I'm not necessarily condemning him for this, but he's economically moronic. He doesn't understand economics. I'm not particularly good at it myself. A lot of us who aren't mathematically inclined aren't very good at that sort of stuff. He isn't. So he sort of deferred to her. Yeah, I've got the, you know, what are you going to be doing? So he has listened to her. She has told him this will work, you know, big budget, then growth. He is now seeing that what she promised just isn't happening. And apparently he's pretty damn angry about it.
Well, as you say, I mean, I don't know how he could possibly be surprised, because everything they've done is almost guaranteed to lead to less growth rather than more growth. And hey presto, that's exactly what we've got. I also think she's facing, I mean, actually really perhaps for the Labour Party and her standing in the Parliamentary Party, the real thing that may kill her off politically is these welfare cuts, which You and I both support. Many of our listeners, probably the vast majority of our listeners, would support sensible cuts to welfare excesses, to any part of the system that is open to abuse. And actually, what she's proposed is really, really modest compared to the relative size of the welfare budget and the scale of abuse that we know goes on. But we've already seen it, pictures of a bunch of people in wheelchairs outside Parliament protesting. I mean, this is anathema to the Labour Party. People who self-evidently do need the support of the welfare state because they quite obviously are very genuinely disabled, are taking up the campaign in a way that is deeply uncomfortable ideologically for Labour backbenchers and indeed Labour cabinet colleagues and other ministers. So I think this is going to be actually as much of a test for the Chancellor as those economic indices. It's whether she can actually brazen it out over these welfare cuts, which I don't think she'll be able to, or whether very quietly she lets it all go away while still making noises about cutting welfare, in fact, basically backtracking on any cuts whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, the Work and Pension Secretary, Liz Kendall, bottled it last week, and this was confirmation of it. These cuts to welfare benefit payments, which were urgently required, are welcome, but they're not enough. They're not enough. Our welfare bill is so huge that by not actually confronting this expenditure, which they basically haven't, because, as you say, Labour constitutionally cannot bear to do such things. This guarantees there'll be tax rises in the autumn, and that is going to mean there'll be hell to pay.
I mean, this comes down to who they are and what they stand for. And the gloss they always will put on it is, we stand for common decency and ordinary working people and so on. But what they stand for also, I'm afraid, is giving an awful lot of shirkers and fraudsters the benefit of the doubt. That's what they stand for. They would rather, this is an ideological thing, they would rather that lots and lots and lots of shirkers and fraudsters got away with it than a handful of genuine claimants were disadvantaged. And some would argue that's a reasonable political position. It's not where I stand. I think you've got to go for what benefits what is most in the interests of the majority of the population, in the country's interests. And I'm afraid that probably will mean a few borderline cases may be slightly less well off. But we have got to tackle the scale of abuse in the system. And I just don't think truly she's going to want to do it.
It's the biggest economic crisis, financial crisis we've got in this country, is the spiralling benefits bill, which gets worse and worse and worse. Each day seems to bring a new shocking revelation of wanton waste. I mean, this story last week that the government basically buys 1 in every 5 cars, buys 20% of all new cars in Britain to hand them out to people on disability benefits. And it turns out that 44% of the people who get all of these brand new cars, courtesy of His Majesty's government, are actually on disability benefits for mental health reasons. So a lot of us are saying, well, I'm very sorry for them and all that, but what if you're depressed or anxious or whatever? Why do you need a car? What's
I personally wouldn't, if we were in the independent Republic of Isabel Oakeshott, I would
We
not,
will be soon, Isabel, don't worry.
I do hope so. I would not be giving any cars for people with mental health conditions, and I would be paring that scheme right back to probably low tens of thousands of people who are demonstrably in need of adapted and special vehicles. There is no case, in my view, for the vast majority of those claims to be approved. It is an absolute scandal. But Kev, there are so many other scandals.
I know. Well, what about the business of what I would call kids, people who are like 22 years old, basically being signed off work for life on the phone by an assessor on the phone, and often that assessment is because they've got mental health difficulties.
That's ridiculous.
You know, they're signed off for life. So the system is broken. The excess is just a national scandal. This system is a mess, and they have not confronted it. And what this definitely means, folks, sad to say it, you know, don't forget, was it today, Rachel refused to rule out more tax rises. In other words, that guarantees in the autumn yet more tax rises, and we are already crippled by the biggest tax rises we've seen since the Second World War. So, you know, it just gets worse by the day.
Well, the burden on the state literally increases every time more boatload of migrants come over. That's not a flippant comment.
Like yesterday, 357. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Each of those comes with a massive price tag. And
40,000 a year. 40,000 a year. Yeah.
Once they've been allowed to stay, as they inevitably are, they then start bringing family and friends over. So the welfare bill is not going to reduce while we're literally importing more and more dependent people. And at the same time, while we're not deporting, and this is a story that we're going to come to, foreign criminals who, funnily enough, don't end up waltzing out of prison and into well-paid jobs. They waltz out of prison and then live courtesy of the taxpayer.
Indeed. Well, let's go to break now. I want to squeeze in another story before we get to the latest disastrous developments on the migrant crisis front. As you say, lighter sentences for asylum seekers, two-tier justice. Another 357 came across yesterday. I want to talk about Just Stop Oil, who have stopped. Just Stop Oil stopped. We will talk about that next, so stick around.
Claim is that she had given Rupert and his legal team until Wednesday to respond, and then the report was published on the Tuesday, so he didn't have time to respond.
Mr. Lowe himself declared on social media last week that he would not be cooperating with the investigation.
Why not wait the extra day?
The second point is that he had a solicitor engaging with the independent KC, and that solicitor also confirmed that Mr. Lowe would not be responding prior to that deadline. So I absolutely deny that the parties acted in any way improperly or jumped the gun.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, which do you want to do first, the migrant crisis or just stop oil?
Oh, what makes me more wound up? It's definitely
that's the meaning of my question. So,
oh yeah, let's go for the migrant crisis.
okay, it is a more important story. First of all, in order for us to be very annoyed, and I think everybody should be very annoyed about this, after a week, it's now been since last Wednesday, they've been coming across hundreds every single day in, day out. Yesterday, 357 came across. So I think the total for that takes the total for the year over 5,000. We're on course probably for 60,000 this year. Starmer, as we know, faffing around in Paris, doing absolutely nothing about this whatsoever. So in itself, you know, the fact there's no deterrent, we don't stop anybody coming across, we just escort them into the bosom of this country and then give them free hotels, free 45 quid a week, free lawyers, free dentists, free doctors, and so free food as well. You know, that ongoing ludicrous situation is a national scandal, and the government's failure to even think about doing anything about it is preposterous. So that in itself is something to get very annoyed about. But what do we learn today? That the Sentencing Council, these are the people, I think it was the beginning of last week, recommended to judges and magistrates that people from an ethnic background, Muslims, people with a different religion, different culture, foreigners, should be given more lenient treatment legally in the courts than those of us who have the temerity to be white British citizens, two-tier justice. Well, now we learn that that same august body, the Sentencing Council, is introducing new guidelines on immigration offences, instructing judges to impose sentences always of less than 12 months. We have a statutory clause in our system whereby if foreigners, asylum seekers, break the law and go to jail for more than 12 months, they're automatically earmarked for deportation. Doesn't by any means mean that they get deported, but they're at least put in the bracket of deportation. If it's less than 12 months, there's no recommendation for deportation. So we have this absurd system whereby if someone comes here and, you know, we have the courtesy to allow foreigners to break into our country illegally or even legally, and then they have the discourtesy to break our laws. As long as we sentence them to less than 12 months, they can carry on living here. No deportation recommended. So these judges, the Sentencing Council, have told judges, make sure that when you've got asylum seekers, illegal migrants, make sure, whatever they've done, that you sentence them to less than 12 months, then we don't have to deport them. How insane is that?
Well, it's completely insane, and the absolute reverse should be true. I mean, actually, the advice and the recommendations, in fact, I would say what should be made a legal obligation is that any migrant who breaks the law should be immediately deported. We shouldn't be fussing about their sentences. It should quite simply be instant deportation if you are found guilty of breaking the law. No ifs or buts. You know, I just wonder what these judges and these people responsible for these sentencing guidelines think happens after an illegal migrant or a new arrival breaks the law and spends any time in prison. Do they really think that after that happens, that illegal migrant or convict is going to get a job in the normal economy? Are they going to do that? Are they going to be employable? No, of course they're not. So what does that mean? They are either fully dependent on the state, or they are going to turn to more crime, or they're going to work in the black market, which is roughly the same thing. They're going to be the people that you find in the illegal car washes, the fake barber shops, and all the other areas of the black economy that we know about. This isn't doing our country anything other than great harm.
Exactly right. You just wonder what goes through their minds. I mean, what we should be doing is getting rid, as you suggest, Isabel, of this ridiculous notion that as long as you only go to jail for less than a year, no need to deport. I mean, what are you talking about?
Complete insanity. If somebody can produce me an example of a relatively recent migrant who has gone to prison and has come out, having been sentenced to less than a year, and has come out and made an amazing career and contributed to our society, then I'm all ears. Please come on Talk and give us that illustration. In fact, it'd be a really good story. I'd love to hear it, genuinely. If we can have some examples of why that approach is good for our country, and those people who have come here and broken our laws are a net benefit to our country, then great. Please demonstrate that. But I really don't think we're going to be getting many calls.
Let me put this out to the audience, folks. Do you agree with Isabel and I that far from making sure we give light sentences to asylum seekers who break our laws so we don't have to deport them, we should get rid of this ridiculous 12-month rule where as long as you only go to jail for 11 months or 6 months, no need to even think about deporting people? Do you agree with Isabel and I that as soon as someone breaks the law in this country, one of our visitors, an asylum seeker, an illegal migrant, even a legal migrant, you're out. You're out. Simple as that. That's not unreasonable. Come here, break our laws. You can't stay. Do you agree? Get rid of this 12-month rule and certainly don't give them special treatment in the courts. More two-tier justice. Isabel, before we move on, let's talk about Just Stop Oil. I guess the headline here is Just Stop Oil Stop. Because that bunch of middle-class idiots with their placards and their soup that they throw at paintings and the traffic that they stop, they've announced that their very public marching in the streets and their very public demonstrations are now over. They're not going to do it anymore, essentially because they believe that they've been successful, you know, that they've influenced the likes of Ed Miliband to go along with what they want. They say that they have succeeded in keeping over 4.4 billion barrels of oil in the ground. I don't know how on earth they estimate that, but I don't think it's that they've achieved anything. First of all, they have not stopped oil, so they can't say we've achieved everything we want. No, you haven't stopped oil at all. I filled my car up with petrol only this morning, so you didn't stop oil, did you? Now, here's the reason I think they're throwing in the towel. It's because they don't make the papers anymore. They don't get on the telly. We're just bored with them. So they go into art galleries, throw some soup over a Van Gogh, and nobody really cares anymore. We're bored with them. We're sick of them. So their virtue signalling goes unnoticed and unheralded, and they don't like that. That's why they're giving up, I think.
Well, I think they also realise that most people absolutely hate them and don't respect their tactics. I mean, I think they've got some claim to saying that they've been successful in this country because look what we've got.
Yeah, I agree with that, with Ed Miliband, crazy Ed, yeah.
Crazy Ed Miliband. And, you know, it sticks in the throat, doesn't it, to hear them boasting of having prevented the release of vast quantities of our own oil and gas that could actually make everybody's energy bills lower. To that extent, they have been successful. Interesting statistics. You asked about the figures that they raised, but it seems that about 3 billion barrels of oil could be available to us if only Ed Miliband would reverse his nutty policies. As you say, they've not actually stopped oil and they never will stop oil. What they've done is increased extended UK dependency on imports. They've made us less energy secure, and they've made it much more difficult for ordinary people to make ends meet. I don't think that's a legacy remotely to be proud of. I'm also a little bit concerned that they are boasting of new strategies, and I'm wondering what those new strategies are going to be. I doubt they're going to be anything that makes anybody feel better about life.
I doubt it. I wonder if they'll start to let people in who are under the age of 80. They all seem to be so old, don't they? Grey-haired old ladies.
Well, either very old or very young, and in both categories, very stupid.
Yeah, I remember turning up at this building once, the News UK building, Talk Towers, and there was a Just Stop Oil vicar. He was a retired vicar, and he'd super glued himself to the doors here. And I just said to him, he's about like 75 or something like that. I said, what do you think you're doing? I'm just stopping oil, I've got to save the planet. I said, what do you care? You're going to be dead tomorrow, you're so old. I mean, you know, what's some of these people? Anyway, good riddance. They didn't really do that much harm. They just annoyed us quite a lot. And good riddance, and go away, and we'll never think about you again. But you're right, they'll come up with something probably to irritate us. But essentially, they're just a bunch of middle-class virtue signallers. And I don't want to sort of cast aspersions, but I'm just wondering if they're racists. Because you never see any demonstrators of colour, do you? No black Just Stop Oil demonstrators, do you? Do they have a race policy? Am I right there or something?
Well, they're bound to have an equality and inclusion policy.
Well, they don't include people of colour.
They certainly include people of very few brain cells.
Yeah, you're right about that.
You know, the other reason I think they might have stopped, by the way, Kev, is because actually a few judges were starting to send them to prison in a highly unusual development. This was actually happening. So maybe they're just getting a little bit tired of being dragged through the courts, as quite rightly they should be.
Yeah, that did work. You're right about that. As it worked with Extinction Rebellion, once you start sending middle-class people to jail, they think it's a grand gesture. I'm going to jail for my principles. Then they get to jail and they really don't like it. So you're right. I think the fact that we started to throw the book at them had an effect as well. So they're probably giving it up because they're scared of prison. Ha ha. I'd send them all to jail and throw away the key. Right, next up, let's talk about old Donald. So much for the special relationship, eh? He slapped 25% tariff on British cars. Excellent. We'll talk about that next. Isabel, stay where you are.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, so much for the special relationship, as I was saying before the break. You know, Keir Starmer faffing around in Paris now, actually talking, actually talking about hoping to get a special deal with America in place by next Thursday. Good luck with that. The point being that as of next Thursday, Donald Trump is imposing 25% tariffs on all car imports, including Britain's, and this will have a pretty devastating effect on the British car industry. So, you know, it's another feat of delusion by this government. Oh, they won't do this to us. They might do it to Europe, but they won't do it to us. Well, they've done it to us.
Well, sure. I mean, the special relationship has long been a bit of a figment of the British imagination. I mean, I don't think it's completely non-existent in that certainly Donald Trump feels a sort of slightly surprising and very welcome level of affection for the UK that probably isn't remotely warranted by the state the country is in. I mean, if he were actually to wander around much of London and many of our cities and towns elsewhere, he would probably be incredibly disillusioned about the England that is in his imagination. It's one thing to be, you know, to have a Trump golf course somewhere up north, quite another to see what has become of our city centres. But he clearly has great affection for the monarchy and, you know, sort of a kind of almost a nostalgic love for the UK. But he is hard-nosed businessman at the end of the day. At the beginning and the end of the day, it's all about deals. And he's not going to cut us any slack because of sentimentality.
Yeah, and as I keep saying, you know, Starmer kids himself that somehow or other Trump and the gang think differently of Keir and Britain than they do about the rest of Europe, the EU leaders. Well, they don't. They really, really don't. I think they think that, quite rightly, that Starmer epitomises everything they hate about Europe. You know, an enemy of free speech, someone who doesn't care about his own borders, someone who loves welfare and benefits against the American way. The Americans believe that hard work and honesty brings you wealth and happiness. In this country, we seem to believe that being lazy, breaking the law and shirking and being feckless means you deserve loads and loads of benefits, which is paid for by those of us who do work. That's the kind of thing that Starmer and his gang stand for. So America has no special place in its heart for Britain. Trump sort of, you know, my mum was Scottish. That's about it. I love the Queen. I like the royals. He has no special place in his heart for this country, as proved by this tariff, which isn't exclusively for us, but we're in it. It's for everybody, 25%. Now, this will be devastating for the British car industry, won't it?
Well, I mean, one thing is true is that Trump absolutely despises the EU, and he makes that quite plain. I mean, he doesn't mince his words about what he thinks.
Excuse me, yeah, I do too.
And it's worth pointing out that Nigel Farage's relationship with Donald Trump, that friendship that they've built up, stems from the Brexit campaign. So it is true to say that were the UK making the most of Brexit and being clearly very different to the EU and actually pursuing the opportunities that the principle of Brexit afforded, then I actually think Trump would look on the UK very differently. We would be in a different category. But unfortunately, first of all, the Tories completely screwed that up and made they supposedly got Brexit done, but it's been pretty meaningless. And now this particular administration simply wants to get back closer to the EU. And of course, Donald Trump is more than aware of that. So the danger is that we're now lumped back together with the EU, an impression that Keir Starmer has only reinforced with his plan for a coalition of the willing, totally unrealistic plan, in Ukraine, which is clearly a kind of EU thing.
Yeah,
so in a sense, he's just further undermined a special relationship that had already been heavily eroded. Doesn't mean we couldn't get it back, but there isn't an awful lot of time to do so. It's not like Nigel Farage is suddenly going to soar into number 10 while Trump is still there anytime soon.
Exactly right. And I thought a key moment in the relationship between Trump and Starmer, do you remember when old Starmer was over there crawling up Trump's backside, trying to get him to get a special deal and everything? Oh, I got an invitation from the king, a royal visit and all this kind of stuff. And do you remember they having a go at Vance was sitting there and they were talking about Vance was talking about their fears for freedom of speech in Europe, and Starmer went, "We have a long tradition of freedom of speech in Britain. We're very proud of our free speech," said the guy who just sent housewives to jail for hurty words on Facebook. He doesn't know the first thing about freedom of speech, and this is half of it. Philosophically, we're a million miles away from this Trump administration. Starmer doesn't seem to realise it, and that's why when he comes to slapping tariffs on the cars everywhere, Britain's just in there. He doesn't think of us particularly differently from anyone else. Listen, Isabel, I know you've got to go, so well, thank you very much for another fantastic week. Have a lovely weekend, and we will talk again next week. The brilliant Isabel Oakeshott, Talks International editor there. When we come back after these messages, we will be joined by the great Dr. René Hundekamp. Lots to talk about, and don't forget, it's Call Dr. René doesn't start for about half an hour, but because Isabel had to go early, I thought we'd get René in earlier. We've got some good stories to talk about. One of the stories we're going to talk about, that'll be in about half an hour or so, is this guy Brian Johnson, the guy who thinks he's going to live forever. He's like 47, thinks he looks really young but looks very old. Well, it's been some interesting developments. He's very interested in his own genitals. He's working on them particularly. He thinks he's got a very, very young penis. He says, I have the penis of a 22-year-old. Well, I say, give it back to him. Poor guy. Anyway, René next. Stay where you are.
The claim is that she had given Rupert Lowe and his legal team until Wednesday to respond, and then the report was published on the Tuesday, so he didn't have time to respond.
Mr. Lowe himself declared on social media last week that he would not be cooperating with the investigation.
Why not wait the extra day?
The second point is that he had a solicitor engaging with the independent KC, and that solicitor also confirmed that Mr. Lowe would not be responding prior to that deadline. So I absolutely denied the parties acted in any way improperly or jumped the gun.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, while I was live on air, by the way, René Hunderkamp is in the studio a little bit earlier than usual. So in 10 minutes or so, well, actually about half an hour or so, we've got to talk about a few other stories first. But it will be called Dr. René, of course, when you can call in with all your medical issues. She is here to help, 0344 499 1000. But we like to cover a few stories first. So she's in a bit early today because Isabel Oakeshott had to leave early. But this is what I want to talk about first. While I was on air live last night talking to the excellent Philip Kilsley from the New Culture Forum, this story broke. And, you know, yes, we're laughing about it, but if you didn't laugh, you would cry. Watch this. Impressed and very pleased by this. I've literally just read this story. A Scottish NHS trust, I think it's called the NHS Highland, has just boasted that its new trans policy, which will allow transgender doctors and nurses to self-identify their gender. In other words, they'll be allowed into any space they like. Anyway, they're very pleased with this new trans policy because, and this is a quote, it will raise awareness of menstruation in men's toilets.
Well, I think I need my awareness raising about that.
Yeah.
Aware of it.
Yeah. But my awareness of menstruation in men's toilets is very low because, you know, I've been a bloke not only for most of my life, all of my life, and I've never seen any menstruating in men's toilets. But we better get ourselves up to Highland because it looks like new and exciting experiences will be available for us. Obviously, this is utterly deranged.
Bonkers.
What on earth are they talking about? As I say, you know, we're laughing there and we're going to laugh. It is hilarious, but it's serious. There are people who think this is a sensible thing to be doing. Of course, the new policy, the trans policy that they've got up in NHS Highland, which is part of our National Health Service, so this affects us all, and trust me, if it happens up there, it'll happen down here soon.
It's happening down here.
Of course it is. So the new policy is that all staff, doctors, nurses, whoever, will be able to self-identify their gender. So blokes can go, I identify as a woman. Never mind about my beard. I'm going in the ladies, or I'm going into the ladies' changing room. There's a big case going on about just this right now. In other words, men will be able to invade female safe spaces. So that is a very, very alarming policy. But it is going to raise awareness of menstruation in men's toilets. Well, I don't want my awareness of that raised. I want it lowered. I'd like it to be non-existent. What on earth are they talking about, René?
Do you know, when I first read that, and I laughed and you laughed because I sent it to you, I thought to myself that most men who've had a partner, a female partner, are well aware of menstruation, and they try and avoid their partner for a few days of the month around it most of the time, and that's probably as much
I really
contact
thought about that.
as they want. I once had a boss who told me that he plotted my menstrual cycle on his calendar and avoided me around that time.
Oh my God.
But the serious point about this is, we're talking about, apparently, according to the ONS, and they say they got their figures wrong, so they're probably overstated, 200,000 of these people in the entire country of 70 million people. So 0.05% tiddly. But we're quite prepared to sacrifice the safety of 51% of the country. Those people have no rights, while this tiny majority, and it is piddly, have it all. It's a joke.
So this would be trans men, in other words, women, you know, who want to pretend that they're blokes, going into the gents and basically menstruating.
It would be, but it also means it goes the other way, and it also means blokes are allowed in the women's toilets.
Yeah, well, I'm not going in the women's toilets to menstruate. I can't do that. I'm just going to go in there.
You just do it in your own space.
I'm just going to go in there, you know, do a bit of voyeuring. You know,
exactly.
like most of these blokes that go in there.
Or maybe walk around with your willy hanging out, which is what they often do.
I mean, as I say, this insanity, this woke insanity that poisons and infests the NHS is a serious problem, isn't it? Our National Health Organisation, for all its many problems, you know, we can talk about all of its problems, but we haven't got time right now. But this wokery, this crazy wokery,
it's completely captured. Completely captured. And do you know what that means, Kev? This is the really worrying thing. Not only does it put their doctors and nurses at risk, and bear in mind, more women are doctors now than men. Most nurses are women. It's a fact. It puts them at risk. And it also puts female patients at risk when a bloke turns up on a female ward in a nightie. But more importantly, when they have to look into serious issues like, shall we give children puberty blockers, they're so captured that the doctors that want to be involved in that kind of research are going to say yes.
Well, there's a story a couple of days ago that a bloke with a beard, who identified as a woman, was allowed to go into a female NHS ward. So sit in the middle of all these women. It's, you know, I think a women's ward, you know what I'm talking about. That's a sort of sacred place for women, you know.
There's 3,500
women get a lot of problems that men don't, you know, and they should have their own medical spaces. And in the middle of this ward, because of a woke decision, there's a bloke sitting there in a beard, wearing a beard. That's ridiculous.
What most people don't realise is most of these men who want to dress as women and call themselves women and live in women are actually what we call AGP.
What's that mean?
They're actually obsessed. It's autogynephilia. They're actually just obsessed with the female sexual organs, and they want to experience.
What's it called?
Autogynephilia. AGPs.
Yeah.
That's what they are. And they're narcissistic as a
Absolute
result.
gormless prats.
Something like that. Or autogynephilia. But they're just obsessed with what they don't have. They're obsessed with a vagina, a uterus, and they want to experience that, and they get off on it sexually.
Yeah. I mean, that is the point. I mean, you know, all this. You know, I mean, I don't want to go into dysmorphia, but I suppose some people sort of get this idea that they were born. They weren't born in the wrong body, by the way. That's not possible. You're born in the body that you have.
Your chromosomes
it's not possible to be born in the wrong body. But I think some people do get it into their heads. Somehow or other, I've ended up in the body of a man and I'm a woman. But I've always thought that. A lot of them, they get off on it, don't they?
Oh, that's real. It's a known fact. It's called autogynephilia, and that's what you're dealing with most of these cases.
Yeah.
And it's narcissistic, it's misogynistic. It's actually the biggest form of misogyny we've got now against women, because they just want to get off on it. They're narcissistic and they don't care about women. That's why they can't feel, for me as a woman, saying, please don't invade my space. They're too narcissistic. They can't feel it. They have no empathy.
Yeah, interesting. And we're going to talk about another NHS Scotland story after the news. What is it about Scotland? Why is that ground zero for all this
It's because
wokery?
the Greens went into coalition with the SNP, and they are absolutely bonkers. They're full of all these misfits with blue hair and pink hair, and this is their thing. This is where they get off.
Yeah. I mean, it must be so sensible women like you. I mean, there's lots of sensible people in the NHS. seriously, I would suggest that the majority of people who work, there's more than 1 million people work for the NHS.
They're scared though, Kevin.
But the majority of them are sensible though.
But
I mean, you
scared.
must feel oppressed by this nonsense. Who is responsible for
Well, that's it.
a small caucus of extremists?
But very powerful extremists, and it goes right the way to the top, through to the management.
And the management are terrified to say no.
No, well, the management are captured, and these people have inveigled their way into positions of power, you know, and you go against it, and you've got yourself in problem. The GMC is completely captured by all of this.
Yeah. And by the way, you mentioned, you know, this is all about, isn't it, bowing to the shouting and the screaming of the extremist trans lobby.
I went to a conference from here, actually, one Saturday morning, and it was a conference called First Do No Harm. And it was looking at the data around puberty blockers for kids. We had to have a police escort into the conference. That is the first time in my academic career that I have needed a police escort into an academic conference.
I mean, because those people can be pretty extreme. And, you know, again, I'm all for trans rights. I believe in people living their lives exactly how they want to, exactly how it makes them happy.
But not.
But not to the extent that you do any harm to anybody else. Now, what we're talking about here is, as you mentioned earlier, we were working on the basis that there were 262,000 trans people in this country. In a population of 70 million, the amount of power and influence that those people have is disproportionate, to say the very least. Now, having said that, of that 262,000, only a few are extremists. Most of them are living their life quietly and just getting on with things. Now we learn today, actually, that the Office for National Statistics, who conducted the 2021 budget census, I've got budgets on the brain at the moment.
It's equivalent. They might as well have done it.
The census in 2021, they asked such a confusing question about your gender and your birth gender and all that, that they believe that a lot of people, particularly foreigners and immigrants, wouldn't have understood the question. So they now say that it's not 262,000, that is wrong, that there's considerably fewer trans people. So we're probably talking about 150,000. 150,000 people in a population of 70 million, and for that, you know, we have to have safe spaces. I have to tell doctors and nurses whether or not I'm pregnant before I can have an X-ray. All this nonsense. You get pamphlets, literature that never uses the word woman or mother. People with cervixes, people who menstruate. All of this for 150,000 people. I believe in their rights, but this is just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's indicative of a country that has lost its mind. It really is. We're going to talk about some more NHS madness after the break. I am with the great Dr. Renee Hundekamp. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan, and we have much to come. We're going to talk about that guy, Brian Johnson, who thinks he can live forever. The one who thinks he looks really, really young. He's 47 years old. He looks at least 57. It's not going well for him. That next. Stick around.
on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Dr. Renee Hunderkamp. This is Call Dr. Renee. The surgery will open in about 15-20 minutes or so. So don't forget, call her in with your medical questions. If you've got health issues, problems with the NHS, we all do. Can't get to see your GP. Just don't feel very well. Not happy with your treatment. Doesn't have to be you. Could be a loved one or a friend. 0344 499 1000. Call Dr. Renee. She's here to help. But in the meantime, Renee, let's talk about a couple of stories. And this is another story about NHS Scotland, Lanarkshire. North Lanarkshire. I don't know if this is general, but a guy, a professor, Royston Call, by the looks of it, we'll take him at his word. He may not be a professor, you never can tell, but he certainly posted a sensible post on X, on Twitter. So he goes into a kids clinic with his young child, NHS paediatrics clinic with his young kid. He says, only to be faced with this advert. So let's just give him the benefit of the doubt. This is a professor. It's certainly a sensible tweet. Why are politics and ideologies being pushed in a healthcare setting meant for children? Completely inappropriate. Let children be children. This is it. Now, big chart on the wall. Kids. This is paediatric. Big kids. This says, what is LGBTI? L, lesbian. G, gay. B, bisexual. T, transgender. I, intersex. And then there are lots of numbers for the Terence Higgins Trust, the Equality Network, all the 5-year-old kids writing down those numbers, the Scottish Transgender Alliance, the LGBT Youth Scotland organisation, and the LGBT Health and Wellbeing Helpline that I'm sure the children would find very, very useful. This is for kids. What is this doing on the,
So this comes hot on the heels of CBeebies having a non-binary raccoon this week. And I'm really, as a mother of a 6-year-old, I object to this more than you can possibly believe. Mm-hmm. So my daughter reads now probably better than me. So as soon as we get in there, she would be reading that. And I would be getting, Mummy, what's a lesbian? Mummy, what's intersex? Because she can read and she wants to know these things.
What is a lesbian, by the way?
I have no idea. And right now, she doesn't need to know about lesbian because you know what? She doesn't know what sex is.
Yeah, exactly. So, and nor should she.
No, nor should she.
This is the destruction of innocence.
Yeah.
The adultification of children.
It is the sexification of children. And you know, she thinks that mummies and daddies are a magic unit that produce babies. That's it. And that's all she needs to know right now. And as her parent, I should have the right of when she learns more about that process. I object to this so strongly, but you know what they're doing, Kev? Yeah. If they can convert our children to these beliefs, they're going to come out the other end.
It's brainwashing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's brainwashing.
Come out the other end and implement all their policies when they become the managers of the future.
I think it's quite right that at a certain age, or the right kind of age, that everybody knows about this stuff. Let's face it, it's in our faces all the time. So, I mean, at a certain age, a kid should know what LGBTI is and all of the issues surrounding all of that, but fine. But not, this could be a 5-year-old kid, as you said. How old is your little kid? 6-year-old kid. 10-year-old. In my view, this isn't suitable for any kid until they're about 14 or 15. Yeah. If you want to push it, shall we say 12, 13. But little kids, 5 years old, I mean, what kind of people are imposing, adults are imposing this on children? Have they got no sensibilities at all?
Do you know, there was always a movement in the back of this where people wanted to remove the age of consent from children. And if I wanted to put on my really conspiratorial hat, I'd say this is aimed at breaking up the family, because when you convince children that their parents are just dinosaurs who don't know what progress is. You split them away from their family. And also there's a group of people that want our children to be sexualised at a much younger and younger age. I find it deeply disturbing. As a parent, I find it an erosion of my rights to parent in the way that I want to parent.
Damn right, damn right. I mean, these people, they're shark-like in my view. It's hot.
They are.
They have no human emotions. They don't understand.
No empathy.
They don't. No empathy. Common decency. Common decency dictates you do not impose these kind of sexual issues on little children. I mean, it's just mind-boggling that people think this is a good... They'll be very pleased with it. Oh, very important
thrilled.
what we've done here. Very important that the kids...
But someone's paid for that. That's a proper banner.
Yeah,
Someone's paid for it.
which is probably available to all
It's
paediatric
huge.
surgeries. Yeah, it's just extraordinary to me. What do you think, folks? This has got to stop, hasn't it? Do you know what it reminds me of? Drag queen story time.
Yes.
You know, drag queens going into primary schools and kids' schools, reading little kids' stories. Now,
That's the sexualisation of kids.
Exactly right. I mean, drag queens are sexual in their nature. They're males lampooning females, to be honest with you, stereotyping females in a sort of, I suppose, if being generous, comedic way, but actually a rather nasty, sexist way, some might say. But I'm not here to discuss the merits, the rights or wrongs of drag queenery.
Apart from when they're reading stories to toddlers.
Be a drag queen by all means. I've been to a few drag queen shows.
Yeah.
Some of them are quite funny. But what are they doing? Reading stories to little kids. Why would you have that?
As a parent, why would you let it happen?
Exactly.
I go back to the parents. This isn't good for your kids. Stop it.
Yeah, exactly right. Now, still with sexual issues, we're going to talk about this guy, Brian Johnson. He's the 47-year-old, you may have read about him, 47-year-old American millionaire who is in search of eternal youth. He's trying to halt the ageing process.
God, he must be
And he
bored.
lives this awful life.
Yeah.
He goes to bed every night at 8:30. He sleeps until 4:30 a.m. He spends an hour in the gym. He eats 3 meals, which is a kind of a grey sludge, apparently, full of... here he is. It's a plant-based diet, and he eats all of his food. I think it's like before 11 a.m. or something like that.
Look at the tablets he takes.
Yeah, he takes 100 tablets a day. He injected at one point his son's blood into him, and the whole idea is he's halting the ageing process. Now, he's 47 years old. He looks at least 57, so that's not going too well. But news stories are emerging. By the way, his company's called Don't Die, and recently got in trouble because it was flogging these bottles of magic serum for kind of food supplement, and people got very sick from it. But anyway, he continues with this. He should get a better hairdresser, by the way, but that's another issue, I suppose. But he looks very sick. He looks old, red rim. Look at him. He thinks he's going to live forever, but apparently he's developed this obsession with his, we can say this as we're all grown-ups, no giggling in the back row, folks. He's obsessed with his own penis. So while he believes he may have brought his physical age down from 47 to about 35, he's particularly proud of his penis, which he thinks is as he says, I have the penis of a 22-year-old. With my initial reaction was, well, give it back to him. Well, you're a doctor. I say, I'm looking at this guy, and I think this is a very, very unhealthy lifestyle. And frankly, live forever like that. I'd rather die tomorrow.
Yeah. So this is mental health at work, isn't it?
Yes.
It's compulsive, obsessive behaviour. I mean, look, he must be so boring as a woman thinking about this man as a potential partner. It's just so unattractive because, again, very similarly, we're talking about someone who is a total narcissist. Yeah. He can't be anything else to spend this amount of time. I know people, not quite as extreme as this, that have spent their life, they're in their 50s now, being ultra fit, ice baths, saunas, you know, every kind of treatment you can imagine. And they've been so focused on achieving that they haven't lived a life.
No.
They've missed out on everything. They have no vocabulary because they haven't developed themselves and they haven't interacted with other humans.
Well, I sort of invented this phrase when I was living in Los Angeles, because Los Angeles is full of these people, you know, obsessed with their own fitness, you know, and not quite as extreme as this guy Brian Johnson, but they live these tedious. I don't drink.
Tedious.
I don't eat meat. I don't smoke. I don't do anything. You know, I go to bed every night at 9 p.m. and all this kind of stuff. And it's because they're scared to die.
Yeah.
So what I always used to say is that they're so scared to die, they're scared to live.
Yeah, I agree with you.
That's what it is.
The other thing there's an ethical thing about this. I actually gave a lecture on this one.
Mind you, go too far. You can live like I do.
Oh, yeah, you know.
Well, I'm not anymore, I'm quite healthy these
Everything
days.
in moderation.
Well, I wasn't very moderate in LA.
Everything in moderation.
But no, seriously,
Ethically,
I mean, so scared to die, they're scared to live.
Yes, but ethically, there's another thing here. If everybody lived forever, where the hell would we put them all? The world would soon be so overpopulated, there was nothing for anybody. Ethically, we have to die. As a species, we have to die. So, I mean, this is a nonsense. We all want to live healthily, and I am, you know, everybody knows I bang on all the time about good, healthy, home-cooked food, keeping a normal body weight, but you can do that and have fun. I have plenty of fun.
Yeah, well, exactly. But I mean, this guy, as you say, I mean, he needs help, doesn't he? I mean, to be fair, he made his money in Utah with a couple of financial business, a paper, you know, what's that, like a PayPal type style businesses. So he's a clever guy, and he sold his 2 financial businesses for something like $800 million. So he's got more money than sense.
Nice work if you can get it.
And so he's now sort of ploughing his money into this company called Don't Die. So he's got a lot of acolytes on social media and everything like that. So in a sense, you know, this absurd lifestyle of his is his new business. I think he knows what he's doing. There's loads of products you can buy and all that. But I think...
Why does he need to sell products? Why does he need to?
Because I suppose he wants to make money.
But that's bizarre, isn't it? And that's what we see. People that have got all this money are just driven by this desire to make more money. Go out there, enjoy life. Exactly
right. Don't enjoy it too much, though, folks, or you'll end up like me. The final meal of the day he eats is at noon. So he gets up at 4:30. His final meal is at noon. Then he goes to bed at 8:30. He eats these 3 meals. It's all lentils and beans and fruit.
But I don't have my first meal until 1. And I'm doing it all wrong.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Do you not have breakfast? It's the most important meal of the day.
It really isn't. That's a complete myth.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I'll just get up.
Coffee for breakfast.
I eat anything I want when I want it.
You do, I know.
I just... well, I eat when I'm hungry, and then I'll eat whatever the hell I want to eat. But anyway, I've been losing weight as well. I think I might be ill or something. Listen, we digress. Let me know what you think about Brian Johnson and his penis.
But it's the ultimate narcissism, isn't it?
What kind of a guy goes around saying that? He's 22-year-old.
When does he ever have time to use it? He's always in bed or he's under a machine.
Well, there's another issue there. There are certain issues surrounding him. So, he's got problems, I think, to say the least. Now, as I say, it's as you know, it's Call Dr. Renee. So after we go to break, you need to get on the phone, and if you have any health issues at all that you want to talk about, any treatment problems you're having, then call Dr. Renee. 0344 499 1000. She's here to help. Stick around, we'll be back in just a little while.
claim is that she had given Rupert Lowe and his legal team until Wednesday to respond, and then the report was published on the Tuesday, so he didn't have time to respond.
Mr. Lowe himself declared on social media last week that he would not be cooperating with the investigation.
Why not wait the extra day?
The second point is that he had a solicitor engaging with the independent KC, and that solicitor also confirmed that Mr. Lowe would not be responding prior to that deadline. So I absolutely deny the parties acted in any way improperly or jumped the gun.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. It's called Dr. Renee. The surgery is open. So if you have any health issues, if you can't get to see your GP, you've got NHS problems, most of us have, and you're not happy with your treatment maybe, you're desperate, or you just don't feel very well, call Dr. Renee, 0344 499 1000. She is here to help. Doesn't have to be you, can be a friend or a loved one. Now let's go to the first caller. It's Ray in Dartford in Kent. Hello Ray, talk to Dr. Renee.
Hello Ray.
Oh,
How can I help?
Hello, Dr. Renee. It's regarding my wife, Sue. She was diagnosed in February last year with normal pressure hydrocephalus.
Okay.
And originally it was in November actually at Benenden Hospital, and they couldn't do a lumbar puncture, which they normally do as a test procedure before they do the shunt operation.
Yep.
Can I just stop you for a second, Ray?
Yeah.
Can you explain... sorry, Ray, just for everybody else who's tuned in,
So
can you
it's
explain what we're talking about
So
here, Renee?
basically there's too much pressure in your head, around your brain, too much fluid. So they put sometimes they can treat it with medication, sometimes they put a shunt in which actually just constantly drains. It's inside the body, you can't see it, constantly drains the fluid back off.
Okay. All right. Sorry, Ray, I rudely interrupted. Carry on.
Anyway, so Benenden couldn't do the operation, couldn't do the shunt. They didn't have the staff there to do it, so we had to transfer to NHS, and we finally got to see a consultant in Guy's in February last year, and he concurred with the Benenden consultant, and Sue had the lumbar puncture back in April last year, and it showed up that the shunt operation would be beneficial to her. So then we saw the consultant again in September, and he confirmed it and wrote a letter to the surgeon in King's College Hospital, because it's all part of the same trust, I believe. And the neurology surgeons are mainly in King's College. Anyway, cut a long story short, he said it'd be about 3 months or something like this. This is in September last year. So I called them in around December time, and they said, well, the earliest appointment we've got is the 13th of May.
Yeah.
So anyway, after phoning around different people, there was nothing else we could do. The consultant wrote a letter to the surgeon in King's saying, could we treat this as urgent? In the meantime, Sue is now in a wheelchair. She can get around the house okay, but she's still when we go out, she's in a wheelchair now. And we got a a letter the day after Boxing Day saying that it's going to be put back until the 27th of May. And they've lost the MRI scan, so Sue's got to have another MRI in April.
That's good, isn't it? That's
now,
great, that is, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then we got a phone message saying, could we make this appointment on the 23rd of May? Could we make it a phone call? And we said no, because obviously the surgeon has to assess Sue, and he has to see her at least, you know. So we said, no, we'll stick to the 23rd of May. And they said, no, that's fine. And then about 2 weeks later, I got a text through saying it's been put back to the 11th of July.
You know, Ray, I mean, I'm seeing this all of the time and I don't have any answers for you. The NHS is just broken, and I think there's a little bit to be said for what Mike Graham was saying this morning about once at least they've given you an appointment, they've got you off a certain waiting list, and then to keep delaying it, you're on a different list, so you don't count in the overall waiting list. But meantime, obviously, Sue's getting quite disabled. Is she on any medication for this?
No, not at the moment, no.
Okay.
No, I completely understand. There's not really much you can say or do. But,
I mean, it might be worth it. It might be worth, because Kevin and I say this a lot. Kevin and I say this a lot, that it's the people that shout that get things done. It might be worth phoning the medical director at Guy's, phoning secretary, because you won't get through to them, but the secretary is enough, make some noise, and just say, you know, you're going to go to the press or something because your wife is now in a wheelchair.
Yeah, Ray, it's no solace to you, but we, you know, even doing Call Dr. Renee week after week, we get people saying, oh, you know, I was supposed to see them, and then they kept delaying, postponing. It's just the story of the NHS, isn't it? People just wait for ages for what I would consider to be pretty urgent treatment. I mean, it's a disgrace, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, is it worth contacting Queen's Square to see if they could carry out this procedure and seeing if they could do it as an urgent?
Queen Square?
So Queen Square is the neurology hospital of UCH.
Oh, right, okay.
And that's where all of the neurosurgeons are there. They're there, basically. Any serious problem goes there, any stroke goes there, all of those things, any neurosurgery. It might be worth, you know, asking what their wait times are.
I'll give it a try.
Give it a go, Ray. I'm really sorry we couldn't be any more help, but your story is very symptomatic of many people's story. Really, really sorry, and please give our best to Sue. Thank you very much, and good luck. Look after yourself, Ray. It's terrible. So is that what they do? So they take Sue there, and because she's been on the waiting list, because they phoned her and said, right,
they've scheduled surgery.
Yeah. So now she's not on the waiting list.
She's on a different waiting list, not a front waiting list.
So she's still on a waiting list.
There's several waiting lists. So this first one is just for first appointments. Then there's layers of people at other stages within the NHS. And apparently Mike was saying this morning that he's hearing lots of people, they get given their appointment, their first appointment, and then it gets cancelled.
But then they're not on the waiting list.
Who knows? We don't know, and proving it would be very hard. But it would make sense.
It's just a disgrace, the NHS.
It's broken.
And
because they're messing around with things like this instead of focusing on patients, you know, trans toilets and nonsense.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, why isn't West Streeting confronting this trans nonsense, this stuff about, you know, menstruating in men's toilets? What's he doing about the 3,500 middle managers who earn sort of 200,000, 300,000? All of them on more than 100,000 a year. Many of them on like 300,000. That's where the money's doing. What's he doing about the 800 diversity officers that cost £40 million a year? You know, it affects the NHS. What are you doing? What are you doing? Just saying things like, oh, yeah, we're really going to get the appointments down. Stop wasting so much money. I mean, you know, a blind child could take one look at the NHS and start to sort it out. Successive governments, health secretaries, they don't even seem to sort of nip around the edges.
No, I mean, look, getting rid of NHS England would be a good thing. They probably won't. I mean, those people will just be siphoned off into other jobs. It won't save any money. This is not where they should be starting.
Yeah, well, what they said about NHS England, I was thinking about that. So NHS England, like NHS Wales, like NHS Scotland, absolute basket case, hopeless. Now, how could the NHS England be any worse than it already is? That would be if you put it under direct control of the government. That's what they're going to do. So good luck with that. Let's go to break now, shall we? And Stephen in London is waiting. Stephen, we will talk to you after these messages.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. It's Call Dr. Renee. Dr. Renee Hundekamp in the studio answering all your medical problems. Any health issues, give her a call. 0344 499 1000. She's not only here to help, she will help, I'll guarantee you. At least I hope she will.
Now you've
I put you on the spot now, haven't I? Let's go to, we've got I've got loads of calls from London. Is it only people in London who are suffering from health issues? No, it's not. Anyway, this is Linda from London. Hello, Linda. Talk to Dr. Renee.
Hello, Linda. How can I help?
Hi. So my husband has ankylosing spondylitis, but I will refer to it as AS from now.
That's a bone thing? Yeah.
It is.
Sorry, Linda. I just got to make sure everybody knows what it is.
It's an inherited disorder. You carry a specific gene, usually HLA. B27.
And what is it? What is it?
27. And it causes problems in the spine, where the spine becomes very rigid, and then you're in a particular.
Okay, with you. Sorry, Linda. Carry on.
That's okay. So just to give you an idea, it's people can be very, very disabled by it, or not so much.
Yeah.
My husband has a completely fused spine. Yeah. He's doing all right. He's doing okay. He's amazing. But I have a question. So he has two related conditions, iritis and psoriasis, which at the moment are fairly well managed. But in May, he's going, which is amazing, he's going to a 2-week rehab course, and then 3 days later, when he comes back, we're going to Spain. Fabulous. But he'll be in chlorinated water because he has hydrotherapy every day when he's in Bath. and also when we're in Spain, we plan on spending a lot of time in the pool, which will be brilliant for him. But what can we do other than him wearing goggles? What can we do to kind of, because a lot of chlorine, to lessen the effects of the psoriasis and iritis?
So the psoriasis is really hard, obviously, because it's a dry skin condition and chlorine is quite drying. I would say, firstly, make sure before you go, so do it now, that his vitamin D is well up in the optimal range, and the optimal range is about 75. You should take vitamin D daily, all of us should. Don't take it on its own, take it with K2. There's a very good spray that you can just spray under your tongue by a company called Better You. There are others out there, but that's one I particularly like. You can get it in Boots.
We currently know he does take vitamin D because he has infliximab infusion, so he has blood tests all the time, and we know he's currently 70, but you would say get that a bit higher.
Good, 75, just about there, but that's a good level. The reason for that is that these skin conditions are really inversely related to a low vitamin D. So we see that people with eczema, psoriasis often have low vitamin D, so get that up so skin's in peak condition. Moisturising vigorously. You know, every time he gets out of the pool, shower down, moisturise all over. I think that's important. In terms of his eyes, I think just important to not go underwater. He
doesn't swim because he can't move his neck. He drowns. So I'm laughing, but I mean it's not funny. But it's just that he will, after that 3 weeks of being in the water every day, and he goes in the sea, which obviously helps with the inflammation.
Lovely, yeah.
So his AS will be tip top. I just want to keep his skin in as good condition, particularly as possible.
And is it worth having with you an emergency steroid eye drops?
I have got some. I don't normally take them away, but I probably shouldn't I? So, okay, that's a good idea.
There you go.
And where are you going again, Linda?
We're going to Spain.
Whereabouts?
We're going to Torremolinos.
Lovely.
How lovely. How lovely.
Because it's flat access. It's perfect for him. He'll come back a new man. He'll probably last till about Christmas.
Perfect. Then you should go to the Caribbean for Christmas.
Yeah. Do that. Linda, well, listen. What's your husband's name again?
His name's Hamilton.
Well, our best to Hamilton, and you two have a lovely holiday, okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you for a good call.
Take care.
You. Linda in London. Oh, nice lady. And you are very helpful on your part, I think.
Thank you.
You don't have these skin conditions when you go on holiday, trust me. Right, let's talk to...
it's all about Kevin.
I went in the sea, it didn't quite work out. Let's talk to Stephen in London. Hello, Stephen.
Hi, Kevin. Hi, Dr. Renee.
Hello.
Hi. Dr. Renee, I think you're brilliant, but I do have a concern about something you said a couple of months ago.
Oh, no. What did I do?
Well, I have prostate cancer, and mine was detected through a PSA test. And a couple of months ago, you said PSA tests are not very accurate, and I don't really bother getting them.
No, you're misquoting me. I didn't say they weren't very accurate. I said they weren't very helpful as a screening test because whilst prostate cancer can push a PSA test up, so can sex, ejaculating, riding a bike, a urine infection. So you always have to be very careful that you haven't got one of those other things going on that's giving you a false feeling that there might be cancer there, because if you then do the test for cancer, they can actually leave you with long-term side effects. So that's what I said about the PSA, and that is a widely held view, that the PSA as a screening test is rubbish.
Well, that's okay. I'm quite happy to admit that's what you said.
That's what she was getting at. That if you think a PSA test is going to accurately tell you whether or not you've got prostate cancer, you've got another thing coming, right?
Can I just finish? Yes, that's what you said. Fair enough. Then Kevin, then that's all you said. You didn't say, but you should still think about getting one. And when Kevin said he'd never had a PSA test, Kevin's about my age. You didn't say to him, well, you should think
35.
About
because I don't think men should routinely rely on a PSA test, so I'm not going to recommend it to Kevin.
Can you let me speak, please? Please.
Yes, of course, Stephen. We're here at your very command.
No, I'm just saying.
Stop saying, "Will you let me speak?" You know, it's a bit rude.
I'm not.
Okay, be polite.
Tell me, Stephen.
I am being polite.
No, you're not. You keep saying, "Let me speak, please." That's not very polite.
You keep interrupting me.
Yes, you've done it again.
Can I just say what I'm saying?
Yeah, go on then, and hurry up.
That's rude. No,
Yeah, you're damn right it's rude. Like you've been rude to us.
Okay, fair enough.
So you be nice, and I'll say what you want to say, and don't interrupt me again. All right?
I didn't say that.
So you just did.
So what? Mine was detected for a PSA test. It's the first stage. You get a PSA test. If that's high, then you get an MRI. If nothing's detected there, then you have a biopsy. So it's the first stage. It's not definitive. And since I had a prostatectomy, a prostate removed, and since then I have to get every few months I have to get a PSA test to monitor my PSA.
100%.
So
100%. A PSA test as a monitor after cancer is a very good test. That's what it's really, really good for. You must remember that not all postcodes in the country are the same. So not all men go from the PSA test to an MRI to a biopsy. Some men will go from a PSA to a biopsy. A biopsy has side effects that are well worth considering before you do it. This is why I have campaigned for the first stage of prostate screening for men to be an MRI, because that would be a fantastic non-invasive test for all men. The reason they don't do it is we don't have enough machines and it's expensive.
So MRI is expensive. So what would you advise men such as Kevin to do then?
Well, he doesn't have any symptoms, so why does he need a PSA test?
You know, I don't know if he does or not. But what about
Kevin? Do you have any symptoms?
No.
There you go.
Okay. Well, all right. So I hope. Well, I hope so. I hope you will. Anyway, thank you. I didn't mean.
Look, I'm really pleased.
It's all right. It's all right, Stephen.
Stephen, I'm really pleased that they found your cancer, and I'm really pleased that PSA worked for you. But I think it's really important for men to know that it's actually not a very good screening test, which is why we don't routinely screen men.
So are you okay now, Stephen? Are you in the clear? How are things?
No, I'm not in the clear, no, because my PSA has been rising slightly, so I need some radiotherapy to kill off any small things. So, but anyway,
but it sounds like Stephen's caught it in good-ish time. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the fact that and the fact that you have the radiotherapy and then fingers crossed, you know, keep having the PSAs to monitor it. That's when a PSA is invaluable. And I do that for patients all the time. They've had cancer. We do a PSA to just make sure that things are staying quiet.
All right, Stephen. All right.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks for the
Good
call.
luck.
Take care now, Stephen in London. He kept saying, "Can you let me finish, please? Don't interrupt." I mean, God's sake. Anyway, good luck to him.
I think what we always have to remember is that when people have had a diagnosis of cancer, I know I've been there, they sometimes act...
Oh, you expect me to be sympathetic, that kind of thing, yeah? I don't have a bedside manner, as you may have noticed. Mind you, a load of doctors I've met haven't got a very good bedside manners. Present company accepted, of course. Seriously, some doctors have got such terrible bedside. It's because I think that they come into contact with illnesses all the time, and they don't realise that for everybody with an illness, that's unique to them. They don't know about all the other
in 2018, when I travelled to the Middle East and got a very, very nasty flu, I turned up at the Royal Free after 10 days of staying at home and nearly dying, and I was treated so appallingly by a doctor. I had bilateral pneumonia. She told me she thought I had a urine infection, was going to send me home. And she was so dismissive of me that I complained.
Did you?
I did.
Yeah.
Because I thought, if that's how she's going to treat another doctor, how the hell does she treat patients?
Yeah. It's like when you know, sort of reporters used to work for me when I was running departments and newspapers and things, and I used to say to them, listen, when you knock on someone's door and you say, you know, I'm from the Daily Mirror or the Daily Mail or whatever, you know, because lots of reporters like that, you go, yeah, Daily Mail, tell me this, and you go, listen, this is probably the most extraordinary thing that ever happened to them. Somebody from a national newspaper knocked on their door and started asking them questions. Remember that. Just because you do it 10 times a day and you think it's just normal, it's not normal for the person you're talking to. And I would say that doctors who have bad bedside manners, they lose track of that. That for the patient that they're talking to, this is a unique extraordinary thing for them, but for the doctors they go, oh well, I did 12 of those yesterday.
That's what I mean about Stephen. He's had a shock, he's got cancer, he's going through it, he's obviously feeling quite passionate about what I said, and I completely take that on board. You know, he's allowed to have that view. So I think people, when they're in that position, you never know how you're going to feel about cancer until you've got it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Listen, Tam is waiting on the line in Bromley. Tam, stay where you are. We really want to talk to you because I think you've got an important issue to bring up. But we're going to go to break first, so we'll go to Tam in Bromley after these messages.
The Gazans, after 17 months of suffering, and of course years and years of brainwashing and intimidation by their jihadi overlords Hamas, who are basically no different from Islamic State. They stem from the same ideological source in the Muslim Brotherhood and so on. They're finally finding their voices. Gaza is a brainwashed population. There's a lot of radicalism there, but there have always been people who've objected to Hamas. One or two of them I know personally. I've been in touch with them. They put me onto this initially, sending me videos of these protests because it wasn't being covered in the BBC.
Yeah.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Still with Dr. Renee Hunderkamp. Call Dr. Renee. It's still, the surgery's still open. 03444991000. Just to let you know, when Renee sadly departs and we get to the 9 o'clock news after that, we're going to be talking about Prince Harry. I'm basically asking the question, does this guy have the opposite of the Midas touch? Everything he touches turns to crap. This charity in Africa, good charity that he was very passionate about, it's just unravelling, falling apart at the seams. He's had to resign, allegations of bullying, misogyny, and a new thing.
Does Meghan work there?
Yeah, and you like this one. Misogynoir as well, that's hatred of black women, racism, so it's just he's got another African charity called Africa Parks that's mired in all sorts of problems as well. So is he just a bit useless? That's the question we're going to ask. What do you think? Is Harry useless? 03444.
He's the spare, isn't he? They're always useless.
Yeah. Are they always useless? Maybe he is. Well, anyway, we're going to be talking about Harry. Is the trouble with Harry? That's at 9 o'clock. But first, the surgery's still open, and this is a guy I wanted to talk to. I got some experience with this myself. It's Tam in Bromley, and he looks after a lady who is 105. Tam, welcome to the show. I gather that the NHS have sort of said to you that they don't really look after anyone of that great age. Is that the case?
Yes, I'm a lady, actually.
Sorry, Tam. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I'm just hoping my phone doesn't die. If it does, I'm really sorry, because it's just plugged in.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a carer. I look after this lady. I've been looking after her for 6 years. And 3 weeks ago, I came in and she'd had a vaginal hemorrhage, very bad. So I phoned the ambulance. They came, took her in, kept her in overnight, just did the normal checks on her, but didn't do anything internal. And I was really worried. And 2 days later, she had another one. Her son didn't want us to go back into the hospital, so he said he'd call the doctor. The doctor came out and said, look, at that age, we don't really want to do anything, or just leave it as it is. And for the last 3 weeks, she's been spotting and bleeding intermittently every few days. He actually came out yesterday because I was worried about her leg being very swollen. It had kind of swollen up to a balloon. He came out and he said, oh, that's just a knock. Wasn't interested.
So what you're suggesting, Tam, is that because what's the lady's name?
Oh, I'd rather not say.
All right, well, because the lady you care for is so old that they don't really care.
Well, I don't think that is it. And I'm going to hear, you might not expect me to say this. Hello, Tam.
Hi.
So look, this is serious, obviously.
Yeah, it could be cancer, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, women of a certain age who are not on HRT, which I assume she isn't.
No, she's not.
Don't bleed from their vagina, and it'll be from her uterus. And the uterus is very good at telling you when there's something wrong with it. And that sounds to me like it's probably, I don't know, an endometrial cancer. So the next
got a dropped uterus, and they basically said they didn't want to do any internal examinations.
But the point is this:
it was too much.
Yeah.
For her.
So this is the point.
She had it 2 years ago, and I said, well, look, she was 104 at the time.
Yeah. But listen, Tam.
Oh, sorry.
Firstly, to do an examination on a woman of that age who's so far post-menopause is actually going to be very difficult and very painful most of the time.
Okay.
I mean, I've got women of 50 who can't tolerate an internal exam because they're not on HRT.
Right.
The second thing is that if it is an endometrial cancer, the treatment is a massive surgery. And the question is, are you going to do a surgery on a 105-year-old? So I do think it's reasonable to have a conversation with the nearest and dearest of somebody that old to spell out what the options are and say, would you want to do that? Because these are the risks. She may not even wake up from the surgery.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And I think quite often we get to the point, and I don't think she should be just sitting in, don't get me wrong, I don't think she should just be sitting hemorrhaging.
No.
Even if they give her tablets to stop that bleeding, or try and stop it, or find a solution to make her comfortable and stop that bleeding. They could do a scan through her tummy.
Oh, they could they?
Yeah. So that's one other option. They could do an MRI. That's the other option. I don't know how mobile she is. So they could have a look and see what it is and what the extent is of it. But I certainly don't think anyone should be sitting hemorrhaging. So I think that should be under investigation. But I do think there's a place for a conversation about these are the risks. How far do you want to go? I mean, if I get a patient who's 98 and his relatives say, I think his memory's going, I will say to them, he's 98. What do you want to do? How far do you want to take it? How invasive do you want to be? Because I think the other thing that we're really bad at is stopping. And we see people having procedure after procedure. They're not living a quality life.
No.
They're not having a quality of life. What are we doing? It's cruel almost. If the Atul Gawande books about a good death, talk to this, that a point comes where we need to have honest conversations where we say, look, and we know that 105, I mean, she's done amazingly.
Well, she's about 100, she's 106 in 2 weeks.
106, I mean, that's incredible. And actually, there's not many people that live to that or beyond it. That seems to be our natural span, doesn't it? I mean, what is her quality of life like?
She hasn't got any pain. She's very happy. She eats really well. And she's not on many tablets. She's just on...
And she's cognitively okay?
She's got Alzheimer's, but yeah, she can have a conversation and, you know, she's pretty good.
But would you want her having a big open surgery?
Oh, absolutely not. No, but what about the tablets?
Yeah. But, I mean, look...
What tablets could she be given?
Well... So this is where the next, you need a brave GP. So there are progesterone tablets which can stop bleeding from the uterus, but a warning will come up on the computer to say you should not give these tablets until you know what's causing the bleeding. But she's 105 and a brave GP will have that conversation. Look, ordinarily we wouldn't do this until we know, but shall we? Do you see what I mean? It's about grown-up...
how long it could go on for, you know, it's...
Well, the problem is if she's really bleeding heavily and it goes on, she'll be anemic in no time.
Yeah.
So that's the danger, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Tam.
Thanks very much.
Well, good.
So speak to your GP about an ultrasound through the tummy, an MRI, and maybe some progesterone to stop the bleeding in the interim.
Yes, okay.
All right, Tam, and our best to the lady you look after. Thank you very much for a good call, Tam.
That's a really interesting call.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, that's why I thought, because what I thought, you know, I've had some experience with older people, and often the NHS does seem to, or NHS people who work for the NHS, they just seem to think, well, this person's 95, you know.
Yeah.
But I take your point as well. You could over-treat someone who's 105, you know.
I mean, I see 95-year-olds on 30 tablets a day.
Yeah.
And I think, what are we doing?
Yeah.
You know, what
my dad
are we doing?
ended up on something like 28 tabs. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, that can't be good.
Why is this person on cholesterol tablets when they're 95, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point. Listen, let's go to the next call. It's Ray in Berkshire. Hello, Ray. Talk to Dr. Renee.
Hi, Ray.
Hello, Renee. I don't want to take up too much of your time because you've had some very important cases this evening. But I'm 80, I don't smoke, and I've had a dry, ticklish cough for over 3 weeks now. Should I be making an appointment with my GP?
Did you have a cold when it started?
I can't remember that. I might have done.
OK, so 2 things. If you've never smoked, your risk is very low, but it's not impossible for you to have a lung cancer. We're in cold season, and little known fact that the cough that comes with a cold can last naturally from 6 to 8 weeks.
Is that right?
You could try some antihistamines, you could try a steroid nasal spray, you can get those in the chemist, Beckinase, for example, to see if that can calm it all down. Or you could just ask your GP for a walk-in X-ray and be doubly sure. I'd probably offer you a walk-in X-ray to just see if there's anything going on. But we are in cold season, common things are common.
Yes. Well, I have had 1 or 2 in the past, but nothing on this scale. But I don't usually get colds, and I like to think I'm reasonably fit for my age. But
you don't sound 80.
Yeah, you sound, yeah.
I don't look 80 either.
Wow, there you go.
But having said that, you know, I don't want to waste the GP's time, even if I can get an appointment.
It's not a waste. It's never a waste.
Yeah, don't waste that. No, don't take that attitude, Ray. You get down there.
Yeah. I had inherited a few codeine tablets. Are they good for coughs or not?
Yeah, they are. Because they dry up the mucus, they calm down the nerve endings. So if you were to take the codeine and it made the cough go away, that would be quite a good sign. It would mean that it's a postnasal drip from the back of your nose, as it were. Don't forget, codeine can make you a bit sedated. Don't drive if it does, and it can make you constipated.
Oh, right, okay. So, yeah, well, from what you've said, it sounds as if there would be no harm in trying to get an appointment.
No, absolutely. Do that, Ray. Do that, Ray.
And, you know, because it gets quite spasmodic and it's quite embarrassing sometimes. People can't stop coughing, you know. Yeah. But it's a dry, tickly cough, so I don't know. Yeah. But I won't Won't delay you any longer. I'll take your advice, and I'll try and get an appointment just to be on the safe side.
Perfect.
All right, Ray. Well, listen, all the best, and
Thanks,
for
Ray.
thanks for a good call. That's Ray in Berkshire. We've just got time. Very quickly, Lindsay. I'm really sorry. I'm going to have to keep you short, but talk to Dr. Renee. Lindsay's got some lung trouble.
Hi, Lindsay.
Hi, yeah, it's actually for my aunt. She was she was apparently diagnosed with COPD 2 years ago.
Okay.
But she's only just been told.
Chronic obstructive pulmonary disease.
Okay. Carry on, Lindsay. Sorry.
So it's now COPD, emphysema, and she's been on various inhalers, but they seem to have made the symptoms worse, the breathing's worse.
Okay, so sometimes inhalers do and don't work in COPD. It depends exactly on what stage it's at. If they're not working, I would make an appointment with the nurse in your practice, which should be easier than with the doctor, and for her to go through them, because there's kind of a ladder of which you use when, and it might be that she now needs to change on to the next stage of the ladder. Yeah, because I think she's gone through 3 already. Yeah, but the first one they put her on, she ended up in hospital with a suspected heart attack. Oh. And then I had a look at the side effects, and one of them was I've forgotten what the word was. Sorry. Tachycardia. To do with, yes, I think it was. Okay, so that's the blue one, the salbutamol, and that does make your heart beat faster, especially if you... this one was in AstraZeneca. She's got the salbutamol. Right. Now, but the first one that she was on was an AstraZeneca, fairly new. Okay, I don't know what that is. Sorry, Lindsay. So I'll find out. I'll make call back next week if that. Yeah,
please do, Lindsay. Right. 8 until 9 next Thursday. We'll look forward to talking to you. Listen, Lindsay, I've got to go because we're going up to the news, but you ring in next week. That's a date. Thanks for calling. Lindsay in Newcastle there. That's about it. I'm sorry for all of you who didn't get through and those who sent messages, but Renee will be back next week, next Thursday, 8 until 9 p.m. Call Dr. Renee. She's here to help. Thank you very much, Renee.
It's a pleasure.
Excellent
Thank you.
Hour. Now, as I say, when we come back, I'll be taking your calls around about 20 past 9, but after 9 o'clock, we're going to talk about Harry and this charity that seems to be unravelling, and ask the question, has this guy got the opposite of the Midas touch? Why does everything keep going wrong for him? I know the feeling. We'll be back in a minute.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Yeah, taking your calls in about 20 minutes. But breaking news, the King is back in hospital. We believe it's purely for tests or checks. We're told, as far as we know so far, nothing to be alarmed about. Yes, I've got a note here. He's gone back into hospital requiring a short period of observation this afternoon after side effects from planned cancer treatment. He's cancelled his engagements in Birmingham tomorrow on medical advice. That's coming directly from Buckingham Palace. Now, we do want to talk about Harry in just a little while, but as luck would have it, we've got royal biographer and commentator Angela Levin on the line. Angela, well, you join us just as this news is breaking about the King. Back in hospital, short period of observation required. This is to do apparently with side effects from his planned cancer treatment. He's cancelled all engagements tomorrow. This is coming from Buckingham Palace. Well, obviously it does sound as if it's fairly routine. Well, we hope it is, right?
Well, of course we do. But the thing is, in the reality, if someone's in their mid-70s, you never know how things can happen. And with cancer, they can be doing extremely well, and then suddenly, boom, and it's not at all easy. I just would hope that they are just checking everything carefully. But you think, why does he have to go into the hospital? Why doesn't he have just the checks, not be there? But I suppose that is the best thing that they can do. That will really worry me now. I mean, he's been so brave and such a good king. And we just must all hope that it is one of those things where the body's just gone a little bit out of sync and they'll just put it back.
Because that's the thing, isn't it, Angela, that you know, we kind of forget that he's still, you know, being treated for cancer. He's still kind of officially suffering from cancer. We never quite knew exactly what kind of cancer he's got, but we have kind of forgotten that this guy is bravely carrying on his duties, even going abroad while going through this treatment. And obviously we would hope that this isn't some kind of a relapse, so that it is fairly routine. But as you say, back in hospital, that would be, I would suggest, partly because, as you quite rightly say, he's a man in his 70s and you can't be too careful there. But perhaps he's been working too hard, I don't know, but very early stage of here. But I mean, this is quite worrying, isn't it?
Well, it is very worrying. It is worrying because we don't know exactly what happened with the cancer, and he's had continued treatment from them from that time. But sometimes it just keeps the body in the right place. It doesn't mean that they're trying to sort of get rid of more and more cancer. It just means they're trying to keep everything calm and keep a close watch. I know several people who've had it for years and they've lived very happily like that. On the other hand, you know, I'm not a doctor and I don't know him that well to ask. And you don't quite know what it's doing. And I think sometimes the blood goes up and down and they need to add things or not have so much. Because I think if you do have this treatment, however regular it is, that the body will suddenly say, oi, you know, too much, not enough.
Well, let's not forget, Angela, that his family, Camilla in particular, they've been begging him, slow down, slow down. He had to be told, you know, to cut back on some of his duties, because you know what he's like. He is a workaholic. He's devoted to his duties.
Well, we did hear, didn't we, just a couple of days ago, that they weren't going to Italy. They were going to see the Pope. And then when he wasn't well enough to see them, they decided they would still go to Italy. But then they said they're not going.
Yeah. Well, it might be... could be connected to this. And if you just bear with me, I better read out exactly what we're getting here. This is from Buckingham Palace in a statement. Following scheduled and ongoing medical treatment for cancer this morning, the King experienced temporary side effects that required a short period of observation in hospital. His Majesty's afternoon engagements were therefore postponed. His Majesty has now returned, that's good news, has now returned to Clarence House, and as a precautionary measure is acting on medical advice. Tomorrow's diary programme will also be rescheduled. His Majesty would like to send his apologies to all those who may be inconvenienced or disappointed as a result. So that's just filtered into the info. Good that he's back in Clarence House.
Yes, it is good. It makes a huge difference, doesn't it? And then they think, there's something gone a bit wrong.
Yeah.
But then they obviously dealt with it, and they said, right, you're well enough to go home. And they wouldn't have allowed him unless he really was well enough. And no, that's a very good feeling.
That is. So our very best to His Majesty the King, back in Clarence House. Well, if we could return after that short interruption to what I was going to ask you about. I want to talk about Harry, Prince Harry. By the way, Prince Harry, a constant worry to his dad, to his poor old dad. But this charity meltdown we've seen in Africa, his charity, in which he suddenly dramatically resigned yesterday. This is a charity he formed way back in 2006 to honour his mother, because what this charity does is it looks after kids affected by HIV and AIDS, mostly kids who've lost their parents in Africa due to those conditions. So it does good work, but all of a sudden, in a big row apparently about, we're told, about revolving around racism, misogyny, bullying, and something called, a word I hadn't heard of before, misogynoir, which is hatred of black women. He's suddenly resigned. I mean, this seems to be a hell of a shambles. What do you think is going on?
Well, it is a shambles, isn't it? And I think it hasn't worked with the new woman who's been in charge, Dr. Sophie Chandorka. They just haven't got on well. And everyone else on the board have also resigned. So, it's not just Harry stalking off. But can I just read you what she said?
Yeah, but I was going to do it myself, but you do it. I've read enough quotes for one night. You go away.
Okay, she said, there are people in this world who behave as though they are above the law and mistreat people, and then play the victim card and use the very press that they disdain to harm people, to have the cause of challenging their conduct. Now, that's very interesting, because you can, I'm afraid to say, see Harry in that might be what she's actually saying. That
well, that's Harry. That is directed at Harry. There's no doubt about that, obviously.
Yes. And so she is, in a way, the first person who's really attacked him like that, has actually gone out and said exactly what she thinks. A lot of people are a bit scared, or they don't want to do that. This is a real bollocking, isn't it, by a very clever woman. And, that's what he's got to deal with. But I do think you said just earlier that, what's gone wrong? Everything's gone wrong for him. And I think, in my view, that actually it's very difficult if he's in Africa, he wants to work in Africa a bit, and he's in America all the time. It's very hard to do that. And I also think he's completely crushed by his wife. And I do think that if people bring out the worst in you and make you feel that you're nothing, and you've got to walk behind them and do nothing, and you're told off every time something goes wrong, you feel you can't do these sorts of things, actually. And if somebody actually is there to make you feel terrific and well and encourages you, then you're very good. But with Meghan, it's me, here I am, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I don't want to know you. I don't want to know you. I want to do it on my own. I want to be a billionaire on my own. She keeps sending him away. And I think he's a mess anyway. But when you hear a woman going that to you, and you still, in one way, love her, but you don't quite understand it, because one minute she's kissing him and hugging him and putting her face in his neck and all that, and in a minute later she's screaming and shouting and telling him off. So he never knows where he is. So that could be some reason why he wasn't doing things so well.
This Sophie Chandorka, and by the way, there were two princes who were the main trustees of this charity.
Yes, that's right.
Prince Harry and Prince Ciso of Lautoka.
They get on very well, very well, because they both lost their mother in a car crash. So they have a closeness for years, since 2020.
So they've both quit in unison, and I gather other trustees as well. But Dr. Sophie Chandorka, the chair, who's obviously fallen out with Harry spectacularly, she's clearly aiming her anger at him. So far, he hasn't really responded. But the reason I wanted to talk to you, Angela, especially, is because, of course, you know Harry. You spend a lot of time with him, and you wrote your excellent book, Harry, about him. My question really is, it does seem at the moment, if you look at his life, everything he touches seems to go wrong. He's got kind of the opposite of the Midas touch, because this isn't the only African charity that he is connected with that's got big problems. He's got another charity called Africa Parks, which is involved in serious allegations that rangers who work for that charity are accused of raping tribal women, sexual assault, and also only this weekend, they apparently moved a load of elephants from one area to another, presumably for ecological reasons or something. And these elephants went on the charge and charged through some village, and 10 local people were killed. So this charity, Africa Parks, which Harry is also connected with, is also mired in serious controversy. So it just seems everywhere he goes, trouble seems to follow. I mean, is he just a bit useless? Is that the problem?
Not really. I think I was with him for about 15 months, so I do know him quite well. And I think that he doesn't know where he is now, because I think he wants to make Meghan feel very happy about him, very pleased with him, and he doesn't feel he can do that. That's my idea. And if you take away someone's ability to do something by your nagging or by not being nice about them or expecting them to walk behind you, they just can't do anything. I think he's in a terrible down time, because even when it's the Invictus Games, and that's the last of the three things, Meghan's taken that away from him, that she gives the speeches, she does all this, she has the cameras focusing on her as she kisses him and hugs him and makes him look absolutely ridiculous. And so he's got nowhere. He can't come home. He's lost his friends. A lot of people don't want anything to do with him now because he's behaving so badly towards the royal family. Terrible mistake with his book, Spare. And so I think he's really lost, and he's so resentful. And that comes out very negatively and like sort of black.
Yeah. Well, look, this is my kind of a summary of where we're at here. So Meghan, right, two-bit cable show actress in something called Suits. A lot of people seem to like it. I must admit, I used to be a showbiz journalist. I'd never heard of it, so it wasn't exactly a world sensation. But she was in this show. And it was never going to make her world famous. She found another technique to become world famous. She married Harry. Now, they married about 7 years ago, and more and more, she's becoming more and more famous, and he's taking more of a backseat role. It's almost as if he's now become the spare, if I can use that phrase, in the marriage. And there's this sense for me, Angela, that his purpose, his usefulness to her has reached the end. She is where she wanted to be. She's saying that I could make £1 billion. She's in your face. Instagram. She's selling clothes. She's setting up As Yet. She's filming with Gwyneth Paltrow. And she's got her podcast coming out. Can't wait. Confessions of a Female Founder, whatever the hell that is. And so on and so forth. She can't move for her right now. So I think that she feels, or I think it's fair to speculate, that she feels that Harry's job for her is done. She's in the position where she's going to make millions, billions, she thinks. Good luck with that, by the way. She is world famous, and she's going to make money out of that. And Harry, for her, maybe past his sell-by date. He certainly looks like a forlorn figure standing in the background where she now believes she is the main attraction. That's where I think this marriage is at.
Yeah, can I tell you two things that she's done that proves that she doesn't want Harry? I think the most important thing to Harry has been that it doesn't show the children, nobody sees his children, and that they don't use social media, because he really hates those two things. That's what he's been campaigning for.
Yeah.
So she's gone, phew, never mind, I want to go on Instagram. She's on it all the time, masses of it's coming out. And she doesn't care about social media anymore. And she shows quite a lot of the children, not exactly their faces, but you can see what they're like now.
Yeah.
And so she couldn't care less if Harry likes it or not.
She used her kids this week on Instagram, Angela, to sell clothes, because she's done this deal with an outfit called My Shop, which means every time you're photographed and you put it on social media and people buy clothes because of that picture, in the influencer kind of mode, she gets a 30% or a 10% cut. And to advertise this new venture, she took a picture of one of her famous pictures of the back of her kids' heads, with little Archie kind of really oddly grabbing hold of her leg. But
grabbing? He looked very scared, didn't he?
He did, didn't he?
See a face.
Yeah.
You don't have to see a face to see. He was clinging onto her, and you think, what a ridiculous time to take a picture of a kid which looks absolutely frightened. You know, perhaps he didn't want to do it and she was screaming at him. Why would he be like that? I think that's quite significant, actually.
I thought it was quite a disconcerting picture, but no doubt about it, Angela. There she is. You know, first of all, on social media, something that she re-entered when she decided she wanted to become when it suited her, and using her kids to make money. No doubt about it.
Yes, I think that's terrible anyway. I think that you should never do that with your children. And I hope they remember that when they're older, because it's very, very difficult. But just back to Harry, you know, she did 6 parts in her, you know, Love Meghan.
With Love Meghan, yeah.
And Harry was only allowed in
eight parts, and he was in...
8, and he was there for 3 minutes.
I know.
Now that is saying, I want the sound of a royal, but I don't need them at all. And I thought that was so crude and so awful. So, you know, I agree with you. The marriage is over. But sorting it out will be very, very difficult indeed. Who will keep them? Who will have them? How much money would she expect from Harry and the royal family? Who will want him? Where will he go? I mean, he really doesn't know what he's doing. He hasn't even got this now, Centauple, you know, where he can help young children, which he really loved, really loved.
Yeah, no, it was one of his core celebrities. I mean, I feel sorry for him. I don't know what has actually happened there. It's quite hard to work out, but there's no doubt he's devastated to have to leave. And it makes his already fairly empty life even emptier. He's got this other problem with African parks. As you say, Invictus Games, we should still praise him for that, and he's still got that in his life. But not much else. And meanwhile, you know, Meghan is hogging all of the limelight, and he just seems to be a bit part character with a walk-on part in her, you know, increasingly oppressive life which she imposes on all of us, left, right and centre. I think it's an interesting situation, and Graydon Carter, the former editor of Vanity Fair magazine over in America, a very prestigious magazine, who was a very close friend of Princess Diana, said only this week in an interview with the New York Post, he said Harry's usefulness to Meghan diminishes daily. That will be a fairly accurate summary of the situation, wouldn't you say?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that he probably knows it at one level, but not at another, you know, because he can't really believe it. And of course, it will be an explosive thing that happens. It's not going to go on much longer. But Meghan never does anything really well. She's made a mess of everything. She can call herself an entrepreneur, but she messes it all up. She never does it right. She doesn't get the things stamped, you know. So she's actually not very good at what she does. She thinks she is, because she thinks she's super wonderful. Yeah. But actually, when you look back on what she's done, she's failed everywhere.
I know.
So that's a different thing. She's not. She might think she's wonderful, but my goodness, she's not. She makes mistake after mistake.
Yeah, she epitomises that phrase, blind ambition. Ambition is her big thing. She is so full of self-belief, it's almost a sickness. Angela, really good to talk to you again. Thank you for coming on. Thank you. Angela Levin, royal biographer and commentator there. As you will recall, when we started that conversation, all of a sudden, just to repeat, the King was in hospital today. We now know he's back at Clarence House, but he required a short period of observation in hospital after side effects from planned cancer treatment went slightly wrong. He cancelled engagements today and tomorrow in Birmingham, but it's good to know that he's back in Clarence House, but the King has been in hospital after complications with his cancer treatment. So we'll keep you posted with developments on that. Let's go to break now. When we come back, we'll talk to the great Georgina, who's on the line from London. So that next, stick around.
The Gazans, after 17 months of suffering, and of course years and years of brainwashing and intimidation by their jihadi overlords Hamas, who are basically no different from Islamic State. They stem from the same ideological source in the Muslim Brotherhood and so on. They're finally finding their voices. Gaza is a brainwashed population. There's a lot of radicalism there, but there have always been people who've objected to Hamas. One or two of them I know personally. I've been in touch with them. They put me onto this initially, sending me videos of these protests because it wasn't being covered in the BBC.
Yeah.
UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I've just seen a note. Politics UK, the website, is posting Nigel Farage has said he admires, that's in quotes, Keir Starmer. Yeah, I'll say that again. Nigel Farage has said he admires Keir Starmer and that he's a perfectly decent human being. Just throw that out there. Nigel Farage admires Keir Starmer. OK then. I don't. Do you admire Keir Starmer? I mean, you know, I suppose if you pushed me, is he a perfectly decent human being? I'm not even sure if he is really. But I don't admire him. Do you admire him? Does Nigel Farage really admire Keir Starmer? 0344 499 1000. Let's go to the phones, and we're going to talk now to a woman who's on Talk more than I am, more than most presenters, and she fully deserves it as well. It is the great Georgina from London. Hi, Georgina. How are you doing?
Hello, you magnificent specimen. I am absolutely fantastic. I can't get over so sad about poor Harry with Meghan, but she's out for every little bit of stardom.
She's very venal, isn't she?
Well, I can't bear the sound of her voice. I would rather pass a red-hot hedgehog from out of my colon than be subjected to listening to her for another moment. For another moment.
So I'm just rolling that image around my head right now. But well, look, let's drop old Meghan and Harry for now. And by the way, we'll send our best wishes to the King, of course, who's been in hospital, but he seems to be okay now. We'll keep everyone posted with that developing story. But you phoned up originally, Georgina, about the delusional Rachel from Accounts. What would you like to say?
Well, I'd like to say that Rachel Reeves has indeed passed her sell-by date, and she is totally delusional to think that we have any kind of financial growth or stability here in the UK. She's even more delusional, Kevin, to think that we believe a word she says. The only growth I can see is the 2.8% pay increase that they just awarded themselves for doing such a terrible job. How fantastic is that?
I know.
You know, this just adds insult to injury when the British working man is being taxed to the hilt and financial benefits to our elderly and disabled are being cut.
Yeah.
They've taken neither accountability nor responsibility for their actions, and they've got to be stopped. It can't go on. They are stripping the bones of the UK bare to the point that there's nothing left to take. A political party who is running this country must work on behalf of the people, and they failed at every corner.
Don't you find it worrying? I'm getting to be very worried about this government, about Keir Starmer, particularly Rachel Reeves, who I just don't think is up to the job. I mean, her whole droning narrative is growth, growth, growth. Well, you can't achieve growth just by constantly saying it. That budget back in October, the £40 billion tax grab, the biggest tax grab in modern history, killed the economy stone dead and just exterminated any chance of growth. It's obvious, isn't it?
Well, it is obvious to anyone who knows the stuff, which she certainly doesn't. She's not qualified for this job. A horse in a hoop skirt could do a better job. Seriously, Kevin, the woman is an imbecile. I am done with her. Totally done, as is most of the UK. She needs to bow out now, very ungracefully as she is, take the money she's got with her and leave us alone. Let us get someone, you know, Julia should do a better job. Julia
would definitely do a better job. Julia should be Prime Minister.
Qualified.
Yeah, absolutely. Julia for Prime Minister, I say. But here's the last point we must discuss, Georgina. Because this socialist government is viscerally, they cannot stand the idea of reducing welfare, reducing benefits. They've had to do it, 4.8 billion's worth, because the situation is so dire. But it's not enough It's not enough. We need a root and branch attack on our massive benefits bonanza, to be honest with you. And the fact that they haven't done enough means, Georgina, without a shadow of a doubt, September autumn budget, we're going to get even more tax hikes. There's going to be more tax rises, and in case you doubt that, Rachel from Accounts was asked just that question today. Will there be any tax rises? She didn't deny it. So it's coming. It's coming.
We are going to get battered in the autumn. We need somebody who's going to close the borders. We need someone who's going to stop sending foreign aid abroad and use the money towards our own military defences. We need to scrap ECHR, and we need to scrap this net zero madness that's bringing this country to its knees. We need to do it, and we need to do it now.
Well, I'll tell you what, Georgina, I just said Julia Hartley-Brewer should be Prime Minister. I rescind that. You should be Prime Minister. Listen, keep on calling. Fantastic stuff. Thank you very much, Georgina, the inimitable Georgina from London. She got a great turn of phrase. What's a horse in a hoop skirt? I don't know what that is, but I like the idea of it. Right, let's go to break, and more of your calls, more of your messages. I don't know if we've got any WhatsApp voice notes, but if we have, we'll play them out as well. Just as soon as we come back, stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's play a WhatsApp voice note, shall we, first? This is Chloe on Rachel Reeves.
I just wanted to say, if they want to replace Reeves, who on earth are they going to choose? I mean, we've got David Lammy, who doesn't know that 7 comes before 8. And possibly, I mean, they could re-recruit Diane Abacus Abbott. I mean, who knows?
That's funny, Chloe. Absolutely. There is a problem. If we get rid of Rachel from Accounts, who do we replace her with? Virtually anything. I think my dog's available for the job, could probably do a better job. Really quick message before we go back to the phones. It's actually about Harry and Meghan. This is from Simon Wilkinson in Windsor. So he's handy for the royal news, isn't he? I made a prediction, says Simon, at the beginning of the year in January, that Harry and Meghan would split up by the end of the year, the end of this year. year. Nothing that has happened so far has changed my opinion. I think that's definitely going to happen. I think a lot of people would agree with you. Angela Levin, who knows her stuff, she doesn't think that marriage is long for this world. And, you know, it just seems you don't see them together. He seems to be like the spare. She's hogging all the limelight. He's got all of his trouble. I don't know, but you know, I wish them well, but it doesn't look good, does it? Let me know what you think. 03444991000. Let's go back to the phones and talk to Chris in Cambridgeshire. Hello, Chris.
Hi, Kev. Kevin, first thing, Prince Charles or King Charles. I hope he gets well soon. He's hanging on in there.
Yeah, I think, you know, as I said to Angela Levin, we forget. He's a brave guy. Yeah. And what is it now? Best part of a year? Is it a year? I can't even remember. I think it's over a year. He's been battling cancer. He's been having cancer treatment and carrying out all his duties, you know, with such good humour that you kind of forget. You kind of forget. But we got a wake-up call here. Yeah. Good for. Well, I think the good news, Chris, is this. When I first read that statement, I thought, oh, this doesn't sound good in hospital, but he's back. So let's not get carried away with the fact this is some kind of terrible episode. So anyway. fingers crossed and our best to him. Anyway, to bring the conversation down a peg or two, you want to talk about Rachel Reeves.
Rachel Reeves.
Yeah.
Now, yesterday, watching her in Parliament, as usual, we went on about the black hole caused by 22.
God, don't you get sick of it, will they?
Yes,
just shut up
another
about
black hole we need to be more worried about.
What black hole is that, Chris?
That's the one between her ears. I've never
the huge chasm of emptiness between Rachel Reeves's ears.
Yes. Yeah. I've never seen anyone who can drive directly at a brick wall with their foot flat out on the throttle with such a smile on their face.
Honestly, but do you... I'm really worried. I don't think she's up to the job.
I don't honestly believe she's got a balanced mind.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's a politician, you know, in a lot of trouble. The more politicians get into trouble, the more they tend to tell ludicrous lies. You know, and say, oh, no, we're not going to the dogs. Everything is fantastic. It's all going according to plan. Yeah. Well, it's quite clearly not. We're not experiencing growth. The economy's going in the opposite direction. Business is dying because of national insurance hikes. People are struggling because of the tax. And we're going to get more tax rises in autumn, sure as day, nightfall as day.
How many times do they have to be told?
No, I don't know, mate. I don't know. See, the problem we've got is it's very rare for prime ministers to sack their chancellors.
Yeah. Kevin, in this country at the present moment, it feels like Germany in 1941, and we're all Jewish.
Kind of. It doesn't feel good, that's for damn sure. I think this country's in trouble. I mean, what did you see? Did you see what Keir Starmer, two-tier Keir, was doing today? You know, while the country's going to hell in a handcart, we are beset by problems. 357 more migrants came across today. That problem continues, carries on and on and on. What's Starmer doing? He's swanning around Paris with Zelensky, talking about the coalition of the willing. Just a massive waste of time and money. Will you stop mucking around with Ukraine and start concentrating on your own country, Starmer? Not a bad thought, eh, Chris?
When's he going to get his nose out of that and let Trumpy sort it out and get peace?
Yeah. You know, I don't want to see him over there talking about the coalition of the willing and how he's going to put boots on the ground, how he's going to put more and more of our money into a war that's a lost cause. It's a lost cause, all of that. And for good or bad, Trump is going to force some kind of peace. All the liberals and the do-gooders go, oh, it's terrible. Russia got everything they want. Well, you know, I wouldn't stand up and applaud that, but for God's sake, let's just end that war and let's stop our Prime Minister pretending he's some kind of great military leader. What a joke. What a joke. Chris, great call as always. Got to move on to another call, but thank you very much. Always good to talk to you. Chris in Cambridgeshire. Let's go to break, take more calls after these messages.
The Gazans, after 17 months of suffering, and of course years and years of brainwashing and intimidation by their jihadi overlords Hamas, who are basically no different from Islamic State. They stem from the same ideological source in the Muslim Brotherhood and so on. They're finally finding their voices. Gaza is a brainwashed population. There's a lot of radicalism there, but there have always been people who've objected to Hamas. One or two of them I know personally. I've been in touch with them. They put me onto this initially, sending me videos of these protests because it wasn't being covered in the BBC.
Yeah.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's play another WhatsApp voice note. It's from Neil, and it's on everyone's favourite topic, Rachel Reeves.
Nice to speak to you again. Great show. I'd just like to say it's not Rachel from accounts anymore, is it? It's Rachel from complaints. It's more accurate and more appropriate.
You're right. I mean, she actually did work in, I think it was for the Halifax one. She worked in the complaints department. You know, she was an economist all over the country, but she wasn't always an economist. Now, good point though, Neil. Yeah, Rachel from complaints. Rachel, because we've got lots of complaints about Rachel, haven't we? Quick message here from Keith Farrell. He's talking about old Keir Starmer strutting around Paris with Zelensky. Zelensky is one of the very few people, men you'll ever come across who's actually shorter than Keir Starmer. So well done there. Vladimir. But anyway, Keith Farrell says coalition of the willing or coalition of the wilting. I'll tell you what, when push comes to shove if we ever got to the point America has pulled out, leaving it to the Europeans to deal with Ukraine, if we ever have to somehow go in and either fight the Russians or defend Ukraine, even peacekeep, let me tell you, Keir Starmer's coalition of the willing, all those EU leaders, will instantly become the coalition of the unwilling. I'll put boats on the ground. What boots? We've barely got an army. We've got an army that wouldn't fill a football stadium, and I'm not talking about a Premier League stadium. Unbelievable, unbelievable. The man is a fantasist, trying to be a massive military leader, the Winston Churchill of his time. Do me a favour. Let's go back to the phones and talk to Andrew in Bristol. Hello, Andrew.
Yeah, good evening, Kevin, and it's a pleasure to talk to you, my friend.
Always. Good to you. Good to talk to you.
Great show. I have a little couplet that might amuse people.
Yeah, you got a couplet.
to explain what's going on.
It's a clean couplet for a family show, yes?
Absolutely.
Okay, fire away.
If Starmer wants to put boots in Ukraine, it's proof that the fellow's insane. And he is.
I like that.
Mad.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly it's not a coherent policy. It doesn't make cogent sense, if you ask me. We have a tiny army. We're ill-equipped. Of course, he thinks that all the other European leaders will come on in with him, but so far, the only country to even pay lip service to it is France. Germany, not a damn chance. I mean, they didn't want to get involved in this dispute in the first place. So the coalition of the willing is just some kind of pipe dream, if you ask me, Andrew.
Well, absolutely it is. And, the man is well, he's trying to be a big man, but he's a small man. He hasn't got the backing of the British people, I would suggest, if he decides to do that.
Yeah. No, he hasn't got the backing of the British people, but like so many feeble, useless, hated prime ministers, he's taken refuge in foreign affairs. He doesn't like being in this country anymore because everybody treats him with contempt and they all think quite rightly that he's utterly useless and he's making a serious mess of the country. But when he goes to Paris, all the gendarmes salute him and the French clap him, and when he goes abroad, everywhere he goes abroad, he gets treated like a great statesman. Doesn't deserve to be, but that's why he likes it. It's a very old syndrome. Prime ministers, presidents who are in trouble at home, they go abroad and start strutting the world stage. Starmer is doing it at a very early point in his premiership, but it's quite worrying, because he doesn't seem to be paying any attention to the troubles at home.
He won't get any truck from people that really care about this country, which obviously he doesn't.
I don't think they do. I don't think he's a socialist. This government doesn't really like Britain, doesn't like our borders. They're so much more worried about, if you think about it, they're obsessed with the sovereignty of Ukraine borders. That's their big obsession. We're going to save Ukraine, the Ukrainian borders out there, the Russian, our borders, they couldn't give a damn about. Don't give a damn about our sovereign borders. It's typical.
The world and his wife in, aren't they?
It's two-tier, Andrew. That's what it is. They care more about foreign countries than they do about their own country, and they care more about foreigners than they do about their own people. My big question is, why do we take billions and billions of pounds away from our own people? People like pensioners, people like farmers, a lot of people who deserve welfare are currently losing their benefits. We're taking billions away from British people, British citizens, but we're giving billions of pounds effectively to foreign criminals who break into our country illegally. They're called asylum seekers. It's just sick. It's sick. Andrew?
I'm a 21-year-old pensioner who's just lost his heating allowance.
Well, you know what I'm talking about. Meanwhile, if you
I come off the phone for you.
Yeah.
There's another one.
Oh, you got another couplet. Then I've got to go. Go on then.
No, it's not so much a couplet, but I would say it's Rachel Reeves, the fringe that makes you cringe.
You're a poet and you don't know it, Andrew. Andrew, great to talk to you. Call me any old time. Andrew in Bristol. Ash will be in. Ashwell will be in fairly soon to tell you what he's got lined up for your entertainment from 10 p.m. until 1 a.m. He will, of course, be flanked by the excellent Andre Walker. So those two guys will take you into the night. They always deliver a hell of a show. So great stuff. He'll be in a minute, but we've still got time to talk on the phones. Well, I've got one here from Scott in Essex. Hello, Scott.
Hello. Having a recent discussion with someone, and I think at some point very soon, Rachel Reeves from Complaints and Accounts and whatever else she wants to claim, may come up with this wonderful idea on how to save us millions and millions of pounds.
Go on.
It's all concerning we'll no longer need to put all the refugees up in hotels.
That would save us billions of pounds.
Build houses that they've just made, they'll go to the refugees and not one to a British person.
You're right about that. There's the refugees or migrants, asylum seekers often are being prioritised for housing all over the country. And if they don't get houses, they get lovely 4-star hotels that cost us billions every year, about £5.5 million every single night at the moment. Scott, let me assure you, in terms of this country, we are living in a basket case, an absolutely insane nation. Scott, good call. Thank you for ringing. Scott in Essex there. Just going to read a quick message from Arvin, talking again about the migrant crisis. We should, says Arvin, we should adopt policies of other countries. For example, the UAE, the United Arab Emirates. They deport and pay for one-way tickets back to your country of origin. If you commit a crime while in the country illegally, you go directly to jail, then you are deported instantly once you are released. Nobody ever considers travelling to the UAE illegally as a result. Strict policy and governance works. You're right, Arvin, but we don't really have any policy except get on a boat, break in, break our laws. Oh yeah, you're a paedophile, you went to jail, we won't deport you, stick around. Oh yeah, you want 45 quid a week, you want free lawyers, free day, yeah, fill your boots. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. I don't know about you folks, but I'm getting pretty sick of it. Let's talk to Debbie in Essex. Hello, Debbie.
Hi there, how are you, Kevin?
I'm very, very well. I'm very angry, as you can hear, but that's my normal
very
state.
Angry too.
What would you like to talk about? I've got a note, the migrant crisis, yeah?
I'm just so angry about literally everything that is going on.
I know the feeling, Debbie. I know the feeling.
Literally beyond. There's just literally no words for it.
Yeah, I know.
It is beyond crazy.
Another three. You know, Debbie, another 357 came across today, or yesterday, rather.
I know.
It's just
I've called up about this before because the RNLL.
The RNLI. You mean the Royal National Lifeboat Institute? Yeah.
Amazing people, but they are the ones that go out and collect all these illegal immigrants and bring them back into our country. And these are all, again, which I've phoned up for you about before, this is a charity company.
Yeah, no, it's a charity. It's a charity.
By the public and the British people.
Yeah.
If we stopped paying, God forbid it would be awful because they just do so much for other people.
Look, the thing is, Debbie, the lifeboat people, the RNLI is a great organisation, and the people who work for it voluntarily and risk their lives, they are heroes. They're amazing people. They do amazing work rescuing people at sea. But they also, as you quite rightly say, regularly go out into the middle of the channel, pick up migrant dinghies, migrant small boats, and tow them back into Britain, into Dover, into Folkestone and all those places. And you're right. When people give money to the RNLI, they donate money to keep that service going. Are they aware that the RNLI is running a taxi service for illegal migrants? I'm not sure that they are.
Service to the immigrants that are coming into our country illegally.
I know.
I mean, it just infuriates me.
Yeah, they're coming in illegally. The moment they come across the channel in an illegal vessel, they break our laws. They mostly arrive with no documents. That's against the law. They're criminals. They break the law. They're illegal immigrants. And therefore, our policy, in my view, if you don't turn the boats round, I don't know why we can't do that, but if we don't do that, once they get here, this is my policy, detain and deport. You detain them, you tell them you broke our laws, you're out of here, like Australia does. Debbie, I've got to go because the show's kind of grinding to a halt. It's coming to an end. But it's always good to talk to you. And you and I, trust me, we are on the same page. Thank you for an excellent call. Debbie in Essex, sharing my frustration. Ash is in the studio. Shall we listen to the Oasis offer?
Yeah, let's do. Mike, let's get Mike to tell us.
Mike Graham, tell us about the Oasis competition.
Pleasure.
How do you fancy winning tickets to the hottest gig of the century? Here at Talk, we're giving you the chance to bag yourself a pair of tickets to Oasis at Wembley this summer. Plus, we're giving away a whopping 10 grand and putting you up for the weekend in a London hotel. All you need to do is text the word prize to 83338 and you're in the draw. Alternatively, you can enter by post. Once again, all you need to do is text the word prize to 83338 or you can enter by post. Good luck.
18 plus UK excluding Northern Ireland. Enter by text for £2 plus one standard network charge by 11 p.m. on the 7th of April 2025. Or post your name and number to Oasis Competition, PO Box 3190. Colchester CO2 8GP to arrive by 5 p.m. on the 10th of April 2025. Full terms and conditions at talksport.com.
This is a News Broadcasting Network promotion.
You're going to have a go at that competition, Ash?
I don't know if we're allowed.
Definitely or maybe.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
No, we're not allowed, actually, but you are allowed.
We'll buy our tickets, unlike the government. You'll get tickets that you can't even buy.
Yeah.
Mysterious
I'm
tickets.
getting my tickets on the Rachel Reeves ticket service.
Yeah.
All free. Excellent, you know.
Nice.
How you doing, Ash?
Yeah, I'm all right, man. How's the show? Good.
It's been an eventful show. As what broke in the middle, or about half an hour ago, was that an hour ago actually, 9 o'clock, was that the King has been in hospital. He's back at Clarence House, so we wish him all the best. Meanwhile, what have you got coming up on your show?
Well, me and Andre, we've got Anna McGovern and Tom Harris are our guests, our guest host, and we're talking about the Easter being cancelled.
Yeah, the school.
Easter is racist, so stop doing Easter. NHS scandal. That Easter thing, it excludes the people who liked Easter. So if it's about inclusion...
Yeah, well, they're called Christians. They're called Church of England goers.
They're excluding them. Yeah. I mean, if it's about inclusion, you've got to have that. And anyway, the NHS scandal, nurse punished for calling trans paedophile a mister.
Oh, that, yeah.
And he called her the N-word, apparently. And
three times.
Yeah.
3 times.
I mean, once is bad enough. Tom Harris, from the Free Speech Union, is going to obviously be on that. Just Stop Oilers Stop, because they're scared about going to prison. They've said that the government have accepted everything, which they have. Idiots. The government have actually agreed with these buffoons who block the roads.
To some